Okay, welcome everyone. Glad you can make it down here. We have trouble finding it? All right, good. So it's my pleasure to welcome here Jeff Slutsky today. His background in both advertising and public relations. He had the opportunity to practice what he preached when he became part owner of a nightclub and health club. So with the marketing dollars now coming out of his own pocket, he began to discover and develop result-oriented, low-cost tactics to build sales. His grassroots marketing program has received a great deal of national media attention, including the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Inc. magazine, and CNN. Jeff has presented and worked with many organizations, including AT&T, American Express, Chevron, Walt Disney, Pizza Hut, Honda, Sony, Goodyear, the U.S. Army, Marvel Comics, the City of Dallas, the state of Arkansas, and the country of India. He's also the founder of Street Fighter Marketing and currently the president of Jeff Slutsky Productions in Columbus, Ohio, which specializes in teaching businesses how to market, promote, and increase sales on a shoestring budget. He has authored and published 10 books, including Street Fighter Marketing Solutions and the newest one, which I'm holding here in my hand, the No BS Grassroots Marketing, which he co-authored with Dan Kennedy. Plus, he's produced 3 audio albums, 6 video training programs, but his most successful production to date is the birth of his wonderful triplets. Please give a warm welcome to Jeff Slutsky.
Thank you. No BS grassroots marketing is an attitude. It's a philosophy, a thought process of outthinking your competition, not outspending them. No BS grassroots marketers do things differently. Especially, there we go, they think differently. They get jobs done quicker. They do it for less money. They think outside the box. What I want to do today is share with you a couple ideas. I have 2 goals. One, I want you to leave today with this attitude of a grassroots marketer, the no BS attitude. And 2, I want you to leave today with several tactics that you can take back to your business and put to work right away. But before we do that, I want to get this mentality part. I want you to understand the philosophy, the attitude, the way a grassroots marketer does it with no BS. How do they do that? They think differently. Let me share with you a few examples from some different types of business just to give you an idea, and then we'll roll up our sleeves and get to work. I want you to imagine for a moment that you're in a different type of business. Let's say you run an appliance store and you have a very serious problem on your hands. People come into your store, they get a price on a refrigerator, a freezer, maybe a TV set, waste an hour of your time going over all the features and the benefits. When they get that, then they start negotiating a price and they get that price just as low as they possibly can. Then they say, well, I want to think about it. Now, I know this doesn't happen to you. Use your imagination for me. Well, this actually happened to one of my very first clients when I first started doing this stuff. A gentleman by the name of Bruce Wisman of Wisman Appliances in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He goes, Jeff, they're shopping me to death. I have 4 major competitors, a couple regional, some national, all within 5 minutes of my store. I'm the last local independent guy in this community. And they come in here, they spend a lot of time looking at all our merchandise, they talk to our people, then they leave and we never see them again. Is there anything we can do to keep these people from shopping around so much? Or better yet, I know they're going to shop, can we just be the last place they visit? Because if we're last, we got a much better shot at them buying from us. Well, he had him do a number of different things, one of which was to fill one of his freezers with half-gallon ice cream. Customer would come in, get a price on a refrigerator, the freezer, the TV set, waste a half hour of their time, start to leave, say, well, we want to think about it. But before they left, the sales force was instructed to give that customer absolutely free a half-gallon of ice cream just for stopping in. Well, naturally, your heart's melted with enthusiasm for the store. They get in their car on a hot July day, ready to shop 3 or 4 of their competitors. When they realize they have a little problem on their hands. They had to immediately go home, put that half-gallon of ice cream in the freezer. It got them out of the momentum of shopping the competition, and as a result, according to an article in the Wall Street Journal, Bruce's sales increased that year by 13.5%. This is an example of how we do it with no BS. We spend less time, less money, more effective, without spending a fortune on the mass media. So why is it we need a no BS grassroots marketing approach? I think now more than ever we really do, and there's several reasons. One, we got more competition than ever before. Everybody's getting into our business. Whatever business you're in, you probably got a lot more competition. Two, economic times have been a little bit challenging for a lot of us. And three, and one of the most important, is advertising. Traditional forms of advertising and marketing just don't work like they used to. There was a time when on a local level you could buy local television or radio or billboards or ads in a newspaper, and that would work. Now it doesn't as much. And they keep raising the prices, and the audiences are dwindling, and there's more of them. And the reason is people just don't want to see advertising anymore. They really don't want to see your ads. I've read statistics that say the average person, your average customers, are exposed to upwards of 17,000 commercial messages every day. They're not going to remember all that. They're going to remember 2 or 3, which means the vast majority of the money spent on traditional advertising is a total waste. I mean, you think about it, from radio, television, newspapers, buses, blimps, everywhere you look, you're constantly exposed to advertising. You just look around the room, you see advertising. We have Ozarka here, and Kmart, and Mattel. Everywhere you look, you're constantly exposed to it, and people don't want to see your ads. The brain tunes it out. Matter of fact, to illustrate this point, I need a volunteer to help me for just a second. Someone, come on up here. Here, I'll come over to you. Okay, we're going to give you are Paul.
Yep.
Hi, Paul. I'm Jeff. Paul, say hi to the group.
Hi, group.
Group, say hi to Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Sounds like a meeting I was at last week. Okay.
Yeah. Before I get started, I just want to say I'm addicted to cornflakes.
Okay, thanks. I'm in charge. Now, here's the exercise for Paul. Nobody help Paul out. Paul's going to do this. In 30 seconds, I want you to name for me 15 different brand names of toothpaste. Go.
Crest, Colgate, Sensodyne.
The problem here is, Paul, I don't have a second hand on this watch.
I'm done.
You're done, okay. Now notice that after the second time, he finally got to third. When most people do this little exercise, they get somewhere between 2 and 4, so you got 3, which is about a C- average. But what happens, there's about 50 different brand names of toothpaste on the market, and they're all spend millions of dollars to get Paul to remember their name, but yet, when he's hard pressed, he can't do it. He can only fit so much stuff up here. Now, his head's bigger than most, but still, even with the extra space, he can only fit so much of it up there, and most of that stuff is just turned out. For helping me out, we're going to give Paul a little gift. Let's see what I have here. How about a copy of the new book from Dan Kennedy and myself?
I just bought one.
You just bought one? Now let's give you another book. Okay. Here's my other favorite. From the big screen to the real world, I wrote this with Larry Wingett, who's speaking tomorrow. My favorite motivational movie quotes, 17 different categories. Took us, a 6-pack of beer. We sat down and wrote this book. So here you go.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give him a big hand. And that's the problem. So we have to become no BS marketers if we want to get through the buffer in people's brains and get them to remember our message and respond to it. Let me give you a few more examples. A number of years ago, some of my favorite examples that have to do with dealing with competition. Denver, Colorado, there was a mom and pop pizza chain, 3 units, specializing in delivery. It's all they did is delivered pizzas. Now back then, their primary marketing medium, and you may have to search the history books for this one, was the Yellow Pages. Remember that thing? Okay. They would use Yellow Page advertising. This was before the internet. And this was their main form of advertising. On page 3 of the pizza section, they had their ad, and it worked fine for years. You wanted a pizza delivered, happened to be in one of their 3 neighborhoods, they'd call you up, life was good. Then Domino's starts their national expansion, and they move into Denver, and they sell a bunch of franchises, and they spend a lot of money on advertising, radio, television, newspapers, coupon drops, you name it, they did it, including the very first full-page Yellow Page ad. Now in Denver, that's got to cost a small fortune. When the new Yellow Page book comes out, who gets the first page in the section? The biggest ad. So Domino's is page 1. Back of the ad, 2 half-page ads. We had a Pizza Hut and somebody else. The poor mom and pop kept the same size ad, but ended up on page 5, which meant when the new Yellow Page book came out that year, people had to turn the pages over repeatedly. Sales dropped. What's he going to do? How does he compete? Well, within 10 days, he ran a campaign that said, bring us the Domino's Yellow Page ad out of the phone book into my locations. I'll give you 2-for-1 pizzas. People were ripping them out and bringing them in. They were going in the phone booths and ripping them out. You couldn't find a Domino's Yellow Page ad anywhere in Denver. Domino's was upset. They had to pay for that ad for another 11 and a half months. Now, when I share that story, it's usually a little chuckle, and I think rightfully so. It shows the spirit and creativity of a no-BS grassroots marketer, except about 6 months ago, I was in Toronto addressing a group of Domino's pizza managers. No sense of humor. One of my absolute favorite examples of dealing with the competition, and tell me if this story doesn't ring a bell, and I'll tell you why. Hair salon on the West Coast. This guy did everything right. Good quality work. He'd go to the conventions, learn the newest styles. Moderately priced, $15 for a haircut, not too expensive, not too cheap. Really good customer service. After a couple of years, repeat, they built a nice business. Then a brand new shopping center is built directly across the street from this guy's salon in the shopping center. They put in one of those discount haircut franchises, Fantastic Sam's. You familiar with that? It's like the McDonald's of haircuts. To advertise this new Fantastic Sam's, the guy finds a billboard right in front of that shopping center with nothing but a plain blue background, plain white letters. He simply said, we give $6 haircuts. Now think about it. You got all these people going to their $15 haircut appointments. Over the course of a month, they see a huge sign across the street, we give $6 haircuts, and they do the math. They get out the calculator. It's a lot cheaper. I must give it a try. And a lot of these so-called loyal customers start going across the street. He's losing his regular customers. Now, he didn't do anything wrong. He's still offering quality, value, good customer service. Yet, because of undercutting of price and competitive intrusion, customers start trying out this new haircut guy. What do? How do you compete? Well, he buys the billboard directly across the street in front of his own salon. Uses the same blue background, same plain white letters. He put, we fix $6 haircuts. Now, how many people remember that story? Where did you hear about it? Did you happen to see it on the Super Bowl about 2 years ago? It was an ad for Office Depot 2 years ago. And where did they get the story from? Well, they had to pay me an $80,000 royalty to use that little gem. So, Dan taught me that little trick. Anyways. And I don't know if you've talking about competition. Here's a neat one. In Virginia Beach, Virginia, there's a little peninsula. McDonald's is the only fast food player in this one little area. It had no direct competition. It was doing almost twice the national average of a typical McDonald's. Wendy's finds out about it. Wendy's is based in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio. Wendy's says, we got to be there. I mean, with a 25% market share, we're making money. We cannot lose. So Wendy's decides to build right next door to the McDonald's. Now, as they're building the store, they think, well, wait a minute. If we do everything for this huge grand opening, we put together this big event, this one day where we just blow it out, then we could probably run that, 40, 50% market share, maybe 55, and we're going to have one of the most successful stores in the chain. He could hardly wait. On the day of the grand opening, the McDonald's guy, who is now going to experience competition for the first time in his life, puts up a big banner on his own store. It said, in honor of our new neighbors, we will be closed. Go visit them. Now, Wendy's was anticipating upwards of 40 to 45, 55% market share that day. They weren't anticipating 100% market share that day. Let me ask you a question. What's the main reason you go to a fast food restaurant? Okay, if you're waiting in line for 2 hours to get your double with cheese, are you going to become a repeat customer? People were getting angry. They were getting more upset. And then the worst thing that could possibly happen happens around 12 o'clock. They ran out of meat. People in the back of the line were yelling, where's the beef? They got such a bad reputation from that grand opening experience. That unit shut down 90 days later. See that guy? No BS grassroots marketing. He was thinking outside the box. He was thinking differently than the normal person. He was being street smart. He knew why the customers bought. They bought for convenience, not the quality of the food. So we always want to be ready for that. Now, just because it's McDonald's, don't always assume they do the right thing. He has a buddy in another part of the country was so proud of their new Braille menu, He had it laminated. So you got to use a little common sense. Now, all the marketing, the advertising, the promotion, all stuff we're going to work on in our session today is useless if we don't take care of our customers. The only thing we can do with our marketing is get people to try us out, get them in the front door, get them to give us a call. But if once they have that initial experience, if we don't convert them to become a regular customer, it doesn't work. So there's an exercise, and I normally do this in a 2-day boot camp. I'm going to share it with you guys, because you guys are the cream of the crop. I'm going to share it with you. I'll talk you through the exercise, and you can take it back to your organizations and have anybody who comes in contact with your customers or clients in any way, shape, or form, online, on the phone, in person, doesn't matter, you do this exercise. Now, in order for this to work, you have to be perfectly silent while I talk you through each step, okay? So, it'll only take a second, but I need everybody to stand up, just for a second. Now, without saying a word, I need you to face the partner. You can do it in a small group of 3, but no talking. Okay, here's the exercise. I'm going to count to 3. And when I reach 3, I want you to look at your partner. Then at the top of your lungs, yell, "What the hell do you want?" 1, 2, 3. What the hell do you want? You guys have had practice of this one, haven't you? Part 2 might be a little more difficult for this group. This time I'm going to count to 3. And when I reach 3, I want you to look at your partner longingly. With your most sincere smile, your most sincere voice, say, "Hi there, how may I be of service?" This may take 5 or 6 tries. 1, 2, 3. We have to take care of the customer in order to make the marketing work. Now, so here's what we're going to do. With no BS grassroots marketing, the focus is on the community, brick and mortar kind of businesses. And let's take a look at a typical kind of community. Okay, we're going to look at where my office is. Now, I'm based in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio, called Gehenna, Ohio. A little suburb. Gehenna, by the way, is the Hebrew word for hell. And Ohio is a Japanese word for good morning, so it's actually good morning hell in 2 languages. But if you look at this, Gehenna, which is just a small community just on the east side of Columbus, Ohio, has all these kinds of typical things that all communities have. Schools and businesses and a hospital. Here's the hospital down here, right across the street from a graveyard, which doesn't speak well for that hospital. But offices and government and churches and government, like right here, is the Gehenna Post Office, which is right across the street from Dave's Guns, which I always thought had some promotional opportunities. Anyways, so golf courses and schools and all. This is what we're looking for. We want to dominate this community. So that's what we are going to try to accomplish with this. So any tactic we do in a no BS grassroots system, it's got to pass 4 tests. Number 1, it's got to cost very little. It's got to show a very high return on your marketing investment. ROMI, return on marketing investment. We don't want to spend $2,000, $4,000, $10,000 each time. Now, if you're already doing that and it works, that's not a problem. But the stuff we're looking for costs $10 here, $5 there, $20 there. Inexpensive kind of things, ideally. Second, it takes little time. You can't put a local promotion together. It's going to take you 10 days to organize. It's just not worth it, and you don't have the time to do it. So we have to be able to do these things in a short period of time. 3, it must drive sales. Most local marketing, it goes by a lot of different names: guerrilla marketing, street fighter marketing. In the industry, it's often referred to as local store marketing or LSM. Most of it is stuff like, they just don't think it through. It's really annoying. Like, what is their idea of local marketing? I'm going to sponsor the softball team. Okay, what do you get for $500 in sponsoring the softball team? Name on the T-shirt and a banner out in center field. How much business does that generate? Nothing. Now, if your kid's on the team, it's a different ballgame, right? I understand. But don't put it in a marketing line item. It's a donation. So we want to do things that are actually going to drive sales, some sort of mechanism, some sort of motivation that once they receive this promotional piece, it's going to motivate people to come in and try you out or call you up or take some form of action that allows you the opportunity to convert, to potentially get a regular customer out of it. And the fourth test, it's got to be measurable. There's a lot of different things you could be doing. Some of it's measurable, some of it's not. Now, you're not going to have time to do thousands of promotions. You're only going to do so many. The most is usually one a week, 50 a year kind of thing at the most. So you can pick and choose. Let's choose ones that we can measure. So if they're not working, we can stop it. And if they are working, we can repeat it or maybe even improve it. So it's got to be measurable. So let's look at a little bit of direct mail. Now this is one when there's a very, very simple message for a lot of retailers. This is where they're already going to buy your product or service in your community. So we're talking about where they're going to buy it, not if. They're already going to buy it. They just have a few choices where they're going to buy it. One of my favorite examples of this, Denise Crawford has a quick print shop in Solon, Ohio. Solon is a suburb of Cleveland. It's right near that fish place, SeaWorld. She was at her annual convention in Las Vegas. While she was there, the annual convention, staying at the MGM Grand, she got this idea. She bought a case of MGM postcards, the actual postcards from the MGM Grand with the lion on the front, full color, very inexpensive to buy. Takes them home, looks up 400 names in the phone book, the bold-faced listings in the phone book, of businesses she did not recognize as already being her customers, so potential new business. Has her kids after school hand address those postcards, mails them at the postcard rate, prints on the reverse side of the postcard, don't gamble with your printing needs, bring this postcard in for 10% savings on your first order. Mails out 400, gets 100 redemptions. That's a 25% return of new business, not regulars. What was it about that particular mailing you think got her that kind of response? What was it? Postcards. What was it about the postcard? Why? It's personalized. It was what? It didn't look like junk mail. If you get a picture postcard from Vegas, you're going to, oh, who do I know in Vegas and how much did they win? Turn it over. No. So you look for it. It got opened, it got read because it didn't look like junk mail. Another guy saw that idea. He was down in Orlando, bought a bunch of picture postcards. Don't Mickey Mouse around when you need somebody to wash your car. You know, if your accountant is Goofy and had a picture of Goofy in it, or whatever, however you want to paraphrase. One of my favorite ones, probably, maybe you've heard of this one. This happened in Columbus. Real estate agent sends out 200 of the ugliest postcards I've ever seen. Brown cardstock, black ink, mails them out. The offer was if you listed your house with a guy, you got a free home warranty. It looked like junk mail, guaranteed to go in the trash, and that's exactly what happened. All 200 right in the garbage. 10 days later, same 200 homes get an envelope from the same real estate agent. Inside the envelope is the same exact postcard. It's been crumpled up and flattened out. There's a Post-it note attached that says, please don't throw this out again. This is important. What's this guy going through my trash? He must really know the neighborhood. Let's give him a call. He actually started getting calls from that. It was a little different, a little unusual. Now, there's one piece of mail that always gets opened up, and I do not understand this. I did my own informal research. Gets opened up almost 100% of the time. Can you guess what it is? No? 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 No, not mine. No. Wedding invitations. Explain this to me. What is a wedding invitation? Close. It is a solicitation. It is a direct marketing piece. They mail it out to a very select group on fancy little paper. For what purpose? To get a gift. You may or may not get the chicken dinner that goes with it, but to get a gift. I mean, look, every time we get a wedding invitation at my house, my wife gets so excited. Oh, it's a wedding invitation. It goes on the refrigerator. I go, just lost another $300. But they love opening these things up. So if you want somebody to at least read your message, make it look like a wedding invitation. Now, it doesn't have to be the oversized, overexpensive, just 8.5 by 5.25 fold over with a little maybe textured envelope. Hand address it, or if kids could do calligraphy, that's nice. On the back flap, your return address, street address only, no company name, that curly Q typeface. And don't use your meter, use a love stamp. Post office comes out with new ones every year. You put a love stamp on that, mail it out, people will read it, and they will open it. And when they do, it's an invitation to discover the best value in whatever your business is, or we love to take care of you, or however you want to paraphrase. But it'll get attention. That's what we want to do, break through the clutter. Now let's look at another tactic. I want to share this one with you. Have a lot of success with this when it's done right. I was working with this group a couple years ago. Backyard Burger. It's a chain of, that's your Pepsi, I'm sorry. If anybody has a diet soda they don't want, bring it up here. I'll be forever in your debt. I was working with Backyard Burger, and we were doing a big pilot program, a number of units. You don't have to leave. Oh, you get me a soda? Oh, you're so sweet. Okay, she is the winner. So you get a copy of the new book. Let's give her a big hand. Oh, is that Pepsi? I'm sorry, I forget. No. No, perfect. You want the book? Shut up. Here, go sit down.
My caffeine addiction.
There you go. Okay. If anyone has a Diet Coke, I got another book too. No, I like that. Okay. What was I talking about? I'm sure it was good. Oh, this thing. Yeah. Hang on a second. Okay. Here you go. I need the caffeine. It keeps my energy level right where it needs to be. Okay. So here's what happened. We're training these guys. Steve is the manager of the unit that was part of our test group, and he's in Knoxville. He notices that the assistant manager, a guy by the name of John Willis, comes in 3-4 times a week to eat at his location. You know, John wears the Blockbuster polo shirt. So one day, he's there a little bit later, it starts to slow down after lunch crowd. He goes, John, we're getting ready to introduce 3 new desserts, 3 cobblers. And I want you to try a little of each one, tell me what you think. And he gives them a little taste, and he says, oh, they're wonderful. How would you like to be able to offer to each one of your Blockbuster customers a free cobbler, a way that you can thank them for being your customers, like a value added, a way your boss, Dave, can thank them personally, and of course you as well, sort of something extra that they didn't count on. Is you can do that? Absolutely. So we printed up a couple thousand of these pieces, only in a black and white version. They handed out 2,000 of these over the course of a week. Out of the 2,000 pieces that went out, here's what happened. About 200 of them were redeemed, which is pretty decent numbers for that. But redemptions, I'm not interested in. Out of the 200, 95 of them were new customers who had never been there before. That's what we're going after. We're not interested in discounting our regular customers. We already got them. We want new customers. How did they figure out if they were new or not? What was the huge scientific, mechanical thing they had to do to figure it out? They asked them. We made sure the cashier said, first time, if they came back with this, first time here, they go, yeah. And we put a little check mark on it and counted up the check marks. Brilliant. Isn't that brilliant? I mean, it's not that hard, but it's a really important piece of information. Is it 100% accurate? It's enough for us to make decisions about. Not only they got 95 there, they got a couple other locations much further away where they got 55 there as well, which I couldn't even believe because they're so far away. It took them 5 minutes to set up. Remember we talked about how much time? 5 minutes. He didn't have to go knocking on the door and sell him on the idea of a promotion. The guy was already his customer. He came to him. And lastly, what did it cost him? Under $20 for the printing. Now you think, what is the value of a regular customer? For someone like a Backyard Burger, the average annual value of a good regular customer is about $350. You take the average check, multiply it by average frequency, and they're about $300 to $400, somewhere in that range. Okay, if you convert 95 of these, and let's say a bunch of them become regulars, so you get $5,000, $6,000 over a 12-month period to generate new business. And this is just one of many promotions. What makes a cross-promotion show you such a high return on your investment? It's what I call the 3 C's of grassroots marketing. First one is cost. The most expensive thing about advertising is the distribution of the advertising message. You buy radio, you buy television, newspapers, billboards. The larger the audience, the more they're going to charge you. We're reaching our audience free. We're getting other people to hand out our advertising for us free. Free is in my budget. I can afford free. Even the production values, the printing is quick printing. Doesn't have to be expensive. I've tried it in full color. I've tried it with scratch and sniff and die cut stuff. For this kind of stuff, it doesn't make any difference. Just quick and dirty. Colored piece of paper, black ink is all you need. Doesn't have to be better than that, and it works the same. Control. When you're doing these kinds of promotions, you have a lot of control over your advertising you don't get with mass advertising media. We can control it geographically. You have one location in a suburb of Dallas, maybe in Richardson. You can't afford to advertise throughout all of Dallas, Fort Worth area. You just have a 5-mile radius around your store. So you pick a cross-promotion partner within a couple miles of you, and then most of their customers are also in that same geographical territory. So I can geographically pick where I want to do this. If I have multiple locations, and some of them are high volume, some low volume, I get more aggressive in the low volume ones without affecting the high volume ones. I have total control geographically. I have a competitor a mile away. I set up a cross-promotion with somebody on the other side of my competitor. And guess what? I'm going to steal some of my competition's customers. Also, there's demographic control. By virtue of the type of partner you choose, you can get the kinds of people you want. If you're looking for young families, who would you cross-promote with? Daycare, Toys R Us. If you're looking for women 18 to 34, who might you cross-promote with? Tanning, nail places. Single men, 35 to 54. Strip clubs, bars, exactly. So you can laser in exactly where you want your advertising to go by virtue of the demographics you choose. And last is credibility. And I think people forget about this, especially price credibility. One of the biggest problems retail businesses have is when things get a little tough, they roll out the coupons. Coupon after coupon. Now, in the short term, it's going to drive some sales in the front door. But there's a downside to all that couponing and discounting and dealing. You begin to destroy your regular price credibility. I mean, if you put a coupon in the paper, every week you run a coupon, it signals to the consumer that you are actually paying for the right to discount your own product on a repeated basis. What does that tell them about your pricing? In Columbus, Ohio, where I live, I get a Val Pack every week. You know the Val Pack? It's the blue envelope marriage mailer thing. I get one about once a week, once every other week. In my Val Pack, the top piece every time is Jiffy Lube, $3 off an oil change. Okay? So over a course of a few months, I end up with 5 or 6 of these. Why would I ever pay full price at a Jiffy Lube? They're just throwing these coupons out way too much. I don't know if you knew this, but Columbus, Ohio, we were the test market for Pizza Hut delivery. They did it differently than Domino's. This is where they tested the one number centrally dispatched. You just dial one number, they figured out where to go. And I've used them a few times. I remember I came back from a trip off of a speaking run. I was gone for a while. I was hungry. I dialed the number. They answer the phone like this. Thank you for calling Pizza Delivery. What's your phone number? They don't want your name. They don't care how you are. What's your phone number? I'm a number. Well, I was hungry. I gave her my phone number. I hear her tapping on a computer keyboard. Let's see here. Mr. Slutsky, how are you today? As if she really cared. I said, I'm fine. And are you still living on Crossing Creek North? I am. Click, 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 click. Let's see here. Last time you ordered a small mushroom onion extra cheese on July 27th at 7:15 p.m., you gave the guy a 20, he gave you change. Would you like to place that same order again today? And I said, do you want to do my tax returns this year? Placed the order, and then she asked me this question. And do you have any coupons today? What has she just done? Now, I didn't happen to have a coupon. I was willing to pay full price. I wanted my pizza delivered. And she said, do you have any coupons today? She's just informed me that everybody else in the world is paying less money for this pizza than I am, which makes me feel real special. I don't mind paying full price once in a while, just don't tell me everybody else isn't. I asked her a question. Now, let me ask you this. Do you take other people's coupons? Oh, yeah, we'll take anybody's coupons. We don't care. I said, great. I have a Jiffy Lube. She took it. Guy, I swear, the guy comes to my door with a small mushroom onion, extra cheese. I handed him $3 off an oil change. He took $3 off my bill. Pizza was a little extra greasy that night. But I will never pay full price at that Pizza Hut ever again because they've proven to me their regular price means nothing. Too easily discounted. But with a cross promotion, we protect ourselves. The motivation to get somebody to try us is that offer, the discount, the value added, whatever we're trying to give away extra to get them to try us. But in this case, it wasn't Backyard Burger saying, hey, I'm giving you a free dessert. It is Blockbuster Video saying, we love you as a customer, and because we want to reward you, we're going to give you a Backyard Burger dessert. We've transferred responsibility to somebody else, and we maintain our price credibility. So we can use those devices, and I never call these coupons. When I'm doing cross-promotion, Refer to them as certificates. Make a distinction between mass couponing and cross-promoting, and I'll use the term certificate so we don't get those things confused. I've got to point it the right way here. I'll figure out how this works. Here we go. So how do we set these things up? Here's an exercise. We usually do this again in the boot camp. I thought I'd share this with you. You don't have to go knocking on doors. You don't have time to go set things up, especially, let's say, the first 6, 8, 10 months when you're starting your grassroots program. You probably know the people already you need to know. So you go through this exercise. Who do I know? Maybe my customers. For example, when I work with a restaurant, we always do a business card drawing. You know, like win a dinner for two, put your business card in the fishbowl. Why do we do that? Do we want to give away a dinner for two? Not necessarily. But after a month, we get a couple hundred business cards. Now we have a good indication of some of our customers and what information is on a business card that might be valuable when I'm looking for cross-promotion partners. The name of the organization, the person's title, their email address, or phone number, and the fact that they're already my customer. So the owner of a retail business, could be the head of a major charity, could be someone who's head of HR for a major employer near me. All these things I can use and set them up in just a few minutes. So that's what I'm looking for. So let's look at a case history. I just did one last year. Are you familiar with Moe's Southwest Grill? Have you ever heard of them? Based out of Atlanta. We were working with, we did a pilot program. You know, well, they got about 350 units franchised, and we did a pilot program for them. And so I'm going to share with you some of the things that we were able to accomplish and what we discovered in this pilot program to give you kind of an idea. Here's another, this simple cross promotion, just like the other one, with a little different format. They did $5 off. Now you're talking about a burrito at $8.50, average check at around $10. So that's a pretty heavy-duty discount. But this was what, last year, year and a half ago, when the economy was still doing bad, so we had to use a higher offer just to get people to respond. We've since been able to pull back a little bit, but it depends on your marketplace. But here's the numbers. Forget about the discount. It's irrelevant. What's the return on investment? What did it cost us? First of all, we got 2,500 pieces handed out for us free to the customers of Staples. The Staples manager happened to be a customer in that particular location. 2,500. What would it cost you to mail those out? How would you get the same impact through mass media? Out of those, just under 400 redemptions. Pretty good. But here's the other number. Now, they had a 25% conversion ratio, and we figured that out through some research. 128 first-time buyers, they figured that out. 128 first-time buyers, and they got that out by circling the N. Whenever one of these came in, now we add this right to the piece. The little N right here, see it? Which means new. Now, we had some confusion. The people that run the counter are maybe not the brightest in the world. Some of them thought the N meant no. So we've since changed it to a big Y for yes. But we got most of the information. So anticipated regulars, that means we divide this number by 4, because a 25% conversion ratio to regulars, 32 regular customers. Their regular customers are worth about, I think it's about $450 a year. A couple weeks later, they did another one with a bank, same thing. 3,000 handed out, 615 redeemed. But this is the important number here, that's 226. First-time buyers, never been there before. That's important. Divide by 4, you get those. Bottom line of this, anticipated revenue from just these two little promotions, now they did a bunch of them, was about just under $40,000 over a 12-month period. You're going to wait for it because they're regulars. And you still have other promotions coming. Keep building. So this is an example we call a merchant cross-promotion. We are cross-promoting with other retail kinds of businesses, in this case a bank and a Staples, office supply place. And then we had a different type of approach. This is the VIP card. This is where we're going to work with an association. We want to work with a major employer, slightly different format, a little more aggressive. And this one location, Archer Road, this is in Florida, did 3 of these. And just in 1 month, we set these 3 up. They got a little over 300 first-time buyers off of this one promotion. So they were able to hit some pretty good goals with that. Again, they're doing more than just this. Fairly deep discounting in this case, but when you think, what is the return on investment? If you get 300 first-time buyers, divide by 4, how many regulars, and you subtract out the discount you gave to your regular people, still a good return on investment. Next technique's called the blowout. This one's kind of dangerous, so don't do this one right away. Get all the rules. But here's what we're trying to do. You can only do this once or twice a year. We want to do something on a one-day event that's so crazy that everybody's going to line up and come out of the woodworks to go to this particular place. So for the Moe's example, remember their top-of-the-line burrito is $8.50 retail. The cost on that burrito is about $1.85, food cost. We're going to do it one day only for 99 cents. Now, you can imagine what the franchisees were thinking. It cost me $1.35 or $1.85 to build one of these burritos without the labor cost, and you want me to sell it for 99 cents? Are you crazy? Well, that's another story. But here's what we want to do. What would it cost in mass media to get this many people to come try you out? So we advertise this thing, and we promote it primarily through our own customers, just a week out. We use the social media to get the word out to our own people, table tents, banners, and so forth. We only discount the burrito, one per person, 99 cents, and we have line. We have pictures of people waiting in line every time we did this. What happened was, yes, we gave away a lot of burritos at below cost. We also got a lot of people who had never been there before. And the food cost wasn't as bad as you think because that's the only thing that's discounted. We're still selling drinks and some of the other things, the add-ons. So they actually made a little money on the promotion when they added everything up, but they got all these new customers. And then what happens, starting a week after that promotion, sales start trending upward a little more aggressively because it introduced people to the business. And that's what we're going to do. If we can get them through the front door. So this cost them a certain amount, but you'd have to spend 10, 15, 20 grand in media to try to get close to that impact. Through those three stores, they did about $35,000 in a day, and obviously they were very pleased with the results on that. You can only do it once or twice a year, usually as an anniversary or customer appreciation day, but you got to do it right. It's never free. Don't do it like IHOP. It doesn't work. You got to plan it out. You got to have a bounce back. Make sure they come back a second time. And there's some other rules. Plenty of product, plenty of labor, and so forth. It's an event, but it generates a lot of business. Then we did something really simple. It's what we call the business card handshake. These guys were more aggressive. We usually don't do this many of them. Here's the idea behind a business card handshake. You run a business. You're the general manager. You're the owner of the business. You don't do a special trip for these. This is part of your regular course of just living your life or doing business. You happen to see the postman. You see the guy fixing your car. You go to the grocery. You see the cashier. As you meet people in your normal activities, social, business, you hand them a business card. Then you do a little script. It's like, I run the Moe's down the street. Have you ever been there? No, I haven't. You probably know if they have or not. No, I haven't. You like burritos? Yeah, well, you're going to love ours. I'm going to give you, first one's on me. And then I handwrite on the back side. These are not printed. Handwrite, one free burrito, Jeff, and I date it. Why do I handwrite that? You know you're special. The redemption rate, about 33, 37% on something like this. You get a lot more first-time buyers from it. So even if you just did one a day, and all the business days, 200, 250 contacts in the course of a year, without spending any additional time, just introducing people as you happen to be out there, you add this to the mix. And that will bump sales. That alone will bump sales if you do this right. Here's your little script of what you say, which is just what I said. Like, you just obviously have to modify it for your business. Now, let me tell you the results of the program. We had 26 people in the pilot. The goal was a 5% increase. This was over about the 5th month in. We had a 4.3% increase on gross sales. Okay. Gross sales over the control group. They were already trending upwards. But our particular group started a 1.25 below the control group, so we actually had over a 5% actual increase in sales from doing our activity. That's the only thing difference between us and the control group was the stuff we had them do. But actually, the numbers should be better than that. When you really look at it, here's what happened. The top 1/3 of my group did about an 18.5% increase on average. The middle group did about 2.5%, and then The bottom group did no increase whatsoever. What was the difference between these three groups? The top third did the program exactly as we told them to. They didn't improvise. They followed it. They did what they were supposed to do. When they followed the program, they got results, and when they didn't get results. That's why the top third did so well. They followed our process. They didn't try to change anything or water it down. Just let it do us. We know what works in this case, so just let us do our process, which I'll explain to you in a moment. But if you follow this, you got a good opportunity, a good chance of actually getting some big numbers. We do weekly coaching, consulting with them, make sure everything's going right. They were always ready. The top third, the ones that got the response, were always ready for the call. They had the numbers already gathered that we were going to track. They knew what they were going to talk about. They called us when they were supposed to. I didn't have to chase them down. When there was an opportunity, excuse me, get choked up when I talk about this stuff. When there's an opportunity that falls in your lap, they get on the phone right away and they call us. They don't wait. Here's one, I'm working with this one unit practically in my backyard, a really upscale Italian place that was a customer there, and the guy asked me to help him, so I started working with him. And really nice restaurant, great food. So he already has, when I started, already had a catering job scheduled with a major employer less than a mile away, Tween Brands, part of the limited group. 420 people were at a recognition luncheon. He's doing all the catering. So as part of it, what we did is a bounce back. Had to turn this around in 24 hours. I thought 15 was a little much, but that's what he wanted to do. So 15, but he's got pretty high price points. $15. Got him. They personally handed them out as they came through the line. So they handed out 420 of these. They've gotten so far 100, let's see, 420 got 90 and 30 is what, 120? They got 120 back, about a third of them are first-time buyers. Plus, they attached the invoices to each of these things. The average check on these was $30.64, meaning people were buying a little more than twice its value. So they actually made money on the promotion, but they were able to introduce this to a lot of new people. And in his case, a regular customer is worth about $1,500 a year. It doesn't take too many of these to really bump up his numbers. But he took advantage of the opportunity. It happened that day. He had the catering job scheduled for the next day, so we had to turn around fast. You don't wait. And then in our weekly meetings, we have reasonable goals set. A lot of people get excited. They want to do 50 promotions in their first month. No. Never more than an average of one a week, and that may be too much. Just take it easy. What's really going to work for you is in the long term, one a week on average, 3 a month is fine. But if you do it for the next 10 years, it becomes part of your operation. That's where it really works. It's that consistency over time, not trying to do it all at one time. Come on. Did it go? No. Oh, here we go. And they weren't afraid to use crazy, aggressive tactics. And lastly, these guys were up and running. The sharp ones were up and running in 45 days. It was a 6-month original test. But as you know, when you're dealing with general managers owned by franchisees, sometimes it takes them longer to do stuff, to learn things. So 6-month program. But the sharp guys, they had it in 45 days. That's all they needed. Come on, you can do it. Okay, number 2, the guy who got the second best increase, got 29.9%. Now, that's exceptional. I wouldn't even expect that all the time at all, but he was able to do it. You know, he got all those promotions completed. But the guy that actually won for the best ones got 31.1%. Keep in mind, you still had a group that got 0 because they weren't doing the stuff. So if you do it, you got a fairly good chance of stuff working for you if you do it right. So here's a question. I know what's on your mind. Jeff, I'm no Chevron or McDonald's. So how do I get your No BS grassroots marketing for my business? I'm glad you asked. Let me explain the program that we put together for you. We got a 45-day jump start program. Now keep in mind, we usually work with major chains, major groups. And I was talking with Dan, what's the best way to apply this to your group? He says, remember, these guys are the sharp ones. So we put together a 45-day jumpstart program. I do this with my brother Mark. Now, granted, he's not as good looking as me, but he still knows his stuff. And between the two of us, here's what we do. In order to learn all the basics, we do a webinar. We'll do several of them so that you can start when you want to, what's convenient for you. So here's where you learn the basics. In this webinar, we go through all the stuff in detail. There's a downloadable workbook, which becomes your plan of attack, where we plan out for your neighborhood. There's going to be templates created. So you have all the stuff you need to get going. And that's usually 2.5 hours, that workshop. So that's where you get all the basics ready to go. And then for the next 6 weeks, we're going to work with you directly. And my brother Mark will work with you a lot too. Usually he does the calls. Now the reason that is Mark's got an education background. He knows how to work with people. Mark's got a master's in education, and especially was working with the extremely gifted and the emotionally disturbed. And we happen to know that most of the people in this room fall in one of two categories. Some of you in both. So between that, he's got ways of helping you really get through the clutter and actually get this stuff going fast. So you get those weekly phone calls, coaching sessions. Then we're going to allow 3 inbounds. Remember, if something happens, you don't wait. You get on the phone, you call us, or you get an email to us. We're available at all times to make sure your stuff gets going. And then I'll get some those templates together so you have your pieces arranged, and I'll work with you on that. So that's everything you need. So within 45 days, if you follow the program right, you don't need us anymore. You can jumpstart this thing. That's how we're able to keep the price down, because the people that hire us are usually spending 6 figures to have us develop these things. You can imagine it's a pretty big project. So we wanted to have something that would be perfect for you guys, and it wouldn't cost you as much. Now, in addition to that, I got some stuff that we're going to include as part of the package. In addition to getting Mark and me, of course, you got to have this book, No BS Grassroots Marketing, so we're going to put it in the package. So you get that. It is the Bible now of local marketing. Then you're going to get the second book, maybe. The one I did with Larry Wingett, who's on tomorrow morning. Who got my book? You got, hold it up. Can I borrow it for a second? I'll give you $10. This is the motivational movie book, movie quotes book. So you find out what sections, like if you want to talk about selling or negotiations or life or whatever, we got quotes from the movies. A lot of fun. Third book, the original, excuse me, Street Fighter Marketing Solutions book, Simon & Schuster book. And even though this is older than the New BS book, this was the inspiration for the No BS book. And the difference is this has a lot of ideas, a lot of techniques that aren't in the other one. So some redundancies, but it still has a lot of stuff. And lastly, you're going to get the video series. So it's a DVD with 4 videos on it. One, Marketing Without Money, Advertising on a Shoestring, Selling Made Simple, and Teleselling. Everything you need to make the thing work, to get people in the front door, to get them to convert. That's the whole package. Teleselling. So let's do, you'll probably ask you, what does it cost? Here we go. Now normally, this is kind of what corporations are paying for us to do this kind of work. So we're only going to charge you 10% more than that. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, we'll put together a very special package. 1997. I thought 2000 sounded too much. So we did this package, or 3 payments of $747. I can only do it with up to 50, but that'd be 100% of you, because we only have so much time to do these things. But we will do that. Plus, you get the 60-day unconditional guarantee. If for some reason, within those 60 days, you don't want it, cancel it, no questions asked. The 45 days start when you attend the workshop on the webinar. And we'll have some this month, next month. If you're too busy now and you want to do it in a couple months, that's when yours would start. But that's when you get this deal. So for those that are interested, we're going to have order forms in just a few minutes. Just ask for those. You can fill them out and give them to the people in the back. So that's the basic program. I want to leave you with, and if you're interested, they have them here. Just go ahead and raise your hand if you want to take a look at this order form. But I want to share with you, we talked earlier, the importance of taking care of the customer. Remember, all the stuff we're going to work on in this 45-day Jumpstart program, if you aren't committed to your customers or clients, it's not going to work. You have to be totally committed, no matter what it costs, no matter what it takes. That's what you're looking to do. You want to make sure they're happy. I had an opportunity to practice what I preached. A number of years ago, I was booked to do a program in Marco Island, Florida, by the Sony Corporation. You may have heard of them. I was so excited about this, I was booked 6 months in advance, and I was the lead keynote speaker at this program, all about taking it to the streets, all on my program. I was the lead guy on it. Not only were they paying me to be there, they were going to throw in a Sony car stereo system on top of it. What are you guys getting me? Nah. But I was excited. But 6 months goes by a lot faster than you possibly can imagine. It's Monday morning, about 2 a.m. I stroll into the house. I was out doing research. I see a light blinking on the machine. I listen to the message. It's my brother Mark. He's screaming on my answer machine. Call me, it's an emergency. I thought somebody got hurt. I call him up. He goes, what are you doing in Columbus? I live here. What's your problem? You're supposed to be in Marco Island, Florida. You got a keynote in 7 hours. I go, you're crazy. That's next Monday. Let's go look at your calendar. And I look at my calendar, and my heart stops. Sure enough, it was that day. Somehow, and I don't know how to this day, I spaced it. But here I am in Columbus, Ohio. I have to give this keynote speech in 7 hours in Marco Island, Florida. Guess how many nonstop flights you can get from Columbus, Ohio to Marco Island, Florida at 2 in the morning. I call the client up. He's panicking, the meeting planner. My boss is going to fire me. The whole thing is based on your grassroots. What are we going to do? I said, let me see how I can get there. I grab the yellow pages. I know it's a long shot. I look up charter flights. Somebody ripped the page out. I get another copy. I look up charter flights. I'm dialing one number after another after another. Nobody is answering their phones at 2 in the morning. How can they run a business like this? Finally, after the 10th try, I dial this 800 number. Somebody answers. It's an air ambulance service. I said, I have a medical emergency. I need to be in Marco Island, Florida by 9 o'clock this morning. What's the nature of your emergency, sir? If I'm not there by 9 o'clock, the guy down there is going to kill me. Well, do you have a major credit card? I said, I have all of them. What do you need? Turns out they have these Learjet ambulances on 30-minute standby at different cities throughout the country. The closest to Columbus was in Detroit. It comes with a pilot, a co-pilot, and a registered nurse. It's a package deal. They could be in Columbus within the hour, but it's just a 2-hour flight straight down to Marco. I don't have to go through Atlanta, and I don't have to lay over and all. I said, great. So I booked them. I rush off to my office. I get my DVDs and books and stuff, and a 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke, because I drink one of these a day, to calm my nerves. And I rush off to the airport to wait for my plane. So it's about 3 in the morning by now. And here I am in the waiting area, the executive waiting area with one night light on. Nobody else was there. And I'm pacing back and forth, trying to figure out, how the hell did I screw this up? You could ruin your whole career with this. And I'm drinking my 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke. There's no cups or anything, so I'm just drinking out of here. And, you know, all my best friends are motivational speakers, and they always try to get me to do these, affirmation things, so I'm trying to calm myself down doing affirmations and end up going, you stupid, you idiot, you dummy. And I get more and more tense, and finally the plane lands. I hop on board, but just before I do, I toss out my 2-liter bottle because I had polished off the entire 2 liters with caffeine. I don't even need a plane. But we take off. 10 minutes into the flight, I just realized I drank a 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke. Now, this jet has just about everything you could imagine except one thing. They don't expect their normal clientele to be able to get up and go. And I was under standard medical emergency, so there's no bedpans or containers. And I'm already in severe pain. I'm not going to survive another 90 minutes, and not like at 48,000 feet I can just roll down the window. The nurse sees what's going on and says, I have a solution to your problem. Catheterization. I go, let's hold this idea in reserve. I crawl up to the pilot and co-pilot and say, what do you guys do on a long flight? The co-pilot had packed himself a lunch. In the lunch, he's got some carrot sticks in a Glad plastic bag with a Ziploc top. He empties the carrots out, hands me this baggie with the most serious face I've ever seen in my life, says, when you're done, make sure the strip at the top turns green. Worked great. Plane lands. I'm ready to leave. The pilot says, how long are you going to be? I said, well, I got a keynote, a breakout. I'm going to answer some questions. I'll sign some books. I'll be done, I know, about 11 o'clock or so. We'll wait. Return trip was free. But guess how much it costs one way going down? Any idea? And I actually priced it out. If I had to do that same exact trip under these circumstances today, guess what it would cost? 3? 15. $15,000 and no freaking flyer miles. You know what? I would have paid twice. I didn't care because it was my obligation to be there. Now, the reason I share this story with you is when I showed up, the client was thrilled to death. I didn't even speak yet, and they were thrilled to death. That was pretty cool. So it was a problem. I caused a problem. I admitted I caused a problem, and I tried to fix the problem. And fortunately, in this case, I was able to buy myself out of the problem. And they were it's such a crazy story. They told a bunch of other people about it, and they started calling me, some other companies. So that company's booked me a number of times. And then these new companies says, I heard about you in the Learjet, and bring your own plastic. Anyways, from what I've been able to track, it's actually paid for itself tenfold. It never costs you to take care of customers in the long run. It pays you in the long run. So that's the last point I want to leave with you. I hope you'll allow us the opportunity to work with you. So take a look at this. If you could fill that out, leave it back there so you could also become grassroots marketer. I would appreciate it. You've been a great audience. I appreciate it very much. And I thank you. You are now dismissed.
So let me tell you a little bit about the backstory of our next speaker. And I hope I'm not going to take away too much of what he's going to be sharing with you. But, and when I tell you the backstory, I got to really go back to the backstory. And it starts all with the backstory of the first time I ever really met Dan Kennedy. In 1995, a good friend of mine, by the name of Mark Rosenfeld, who owned a menswear store, still owns a menswear store in Philadelphia called Tory Big and Tall, called me up on the phone. I was running my menswear stores at the time. Called me up on the phone. He said to me, Bill, there's this big success seminar coming to Philadelphia. Why don't you come on up for the day, get on a train, hop up here, and you can hear Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins and Barbara Bush and a bunch of other great speakers, and we'll hang out for the whole day, and we'll have a good time, and I'll be his guest. And so I said, gee, it sounds like a good idea. And stayed there. I went to the event. And at the end of the day, there was a bonus speaker that got up on the stage, and he said, listen, you can decide what you want to do. You can either go out to the parking lot and wait an hour to get your car off the lot, or you can stay here and you can listen to me talk to you about how to market your business. And that bonus speaker was a guy named Dan Kennedy. And of course, I stayed because I didn't want to go wait in the car for an hour. And it was obviously, totally changed my life. And I immediately leapt to the back of the room to invest in magnetic marketing as soon as he finished speaking. And I consumed it on the train ride back, and it came back and applied it to my menswear business, and I had Herculean growth year after year after year. That was 1995. 1997, I looked in the newspaper. And by that time, I was a subscriber to the No BS marketing letter, and I looked in our local newspaper and also saw in the No BS marketing letter that Dan Kennedy was coming to Baltimore because the Success Seminar was now coming to Baltimore. And at that point, what I did was I had never met Dan. I'd just been subscribing to his information. My menswear business was just flourishing like crazy while all the other menswear stores around the country were closing like crazy. And I wrote a letter to Dan Kennedy, and I said to him, Mr. Kennedy, you don't know me. My name is Bill Glazer. I'm a member of the Inner Circle. And that I would love to take you to dinner because of the fact that I would very much like to thank you for everything that you've done to help me with my business. And one day, the phone, they paged me over at my menswear store, and they said to me, Mr. Dan Kennedy's on the phone. And he was on the phone, and he said to me, Bill, I'm sorry, I just can't have dinner with you. I'm going to be flying in and flying out that night, but I don't have to be at the arena until 4 o'clock, so if you like, we can have lunch together. So I met Dan for lunch, and by the way, on the phone, I said to him, by the way, I want to let you know, I just want to thank you. I'm not trying to pick your brain. And of course, he said to me, Bill, if you don't pick my brain, you're nuts. So I showed up with a bunch of stuff this thick of all the stuff that I was creating to show it to him. And of course, while I was there, he looked it over, he was telling me how great it was, and he said to me, you should be selling this to other menswear retailers. That's the first time I ever heard of the information marketing business. I didn't know what the hell information marketing business was. And Dan he became very gracious at that time, and he agreed to take a huge sum of my money to help me do that. Very nice of him to do that. By the way, he still has that same graciousness in him for all of you. So, when I left there, I was really jazzed about the fact I'm going to be an information marketer. And then about 9 months later, which is a lesson to be learned, but about 9 months later, I launched in the information marketing business. In the first year, I did about $500,000 in sales to menswear retailers. By the second year, I did $1 million in sales. And then by the third year, we were branching out to all types of retailers. I tell you that story because when I tell that story, it's like the dumbest story that I ever tell to people. And the reason why it's the dumbest story I ever tell to people is because I routinely now, when I tell that story, people come to me and they say to me, well, Dan Kennedy had lunch with you, so I'm asking you to have lunch with me. So I get all these requests to have lunch with people. And by the way, when I tell the story, Dan Kennedy also says that when I stop telling the damn story because people ask him to have lunch with him, you know. So we both get all these requests to go out and have lunch with folks. And so here's what happened. One day at our office, this guy calls the office and he says, I'm a Glazer Kennedy member. I heard your story about how Dan Kennedy went out to lunch with you. I'd like to have lunch with you. So I don't know why. I'm not sure exactly why I said yes, but I think it was something to do with the fact that I was intrigued by the fact that he was in the sports business, and I'm a big sports guy. So I figured, it'd be cool to kind of hang out with this guy. And he said he was in town meeting with the Baltimore Ravens. And so I said, sure. I mean, be happy. I don't know that I said to be happy, but we met for lunch. And while we met for lunch, he's showing me all his marketing materials that he does for this thing he puts on, which he'll tell you about in a few moments. And as I'm looking at it, I'm seeing on the side of it, there's all these like companies that are listed there on the side of his marketing pieces. I said, well, what's this all about? He said, these are people that are paying us money to have their logos and on our marketing, and they also sponsor our event. And by the way, and he told me how much money he gets for sponsorships at his event, which he'll probably tell you. So I don't want to mention that number. He'll probably share that with you. And while we're having lunch, I said to him, Ron, this is like the most interesting thing I've seen is the fact that all these people are paying you all this money to have their names put there. I said, because like when we're doing stuff, we're like looking for folks to pay us money to come. You're like supplementing the whole thing. You have this huge sum of money before they even show up from all these sponsors. So I said to him, you need to be teaching this to other people. And by the way, he brought with him, this is a very important part of the story, he brought with him at that meeting this like big bag of Ravens memorabilia, like T-shirts and other things, okay? It's a big part of the story. I'll tell you why. You'll see in a second. So anyway, so I said to him at that time, Ron, you need to be teaching this to other people. And he took me very, very seriously. And he went out and he started teaching other people. And what the interesting thing about it is, not only is it working for people like us in the information marketing business, but it's working in people's regular business. So if you're like a lawyer or an accountant, if you're like a mortgage broker, if you're a retailer, you could be using it in your own businesses. So he's going to be sharing with you today how you can find this like hidden money, people just waiting to give you money that you didn't realize could give you. So like, as you can see here, we have vendors that are here. The people the bag that you all got has a vendor's name at the bottom of it. They're paying for that bag. There's bunches of places that we are finding people that are, the pictures, the pictures you took with George Foreman, it's sponsored by somebody. People are underwriting all the cost of these things so it doesn't cost us money. And he's going to show you how you can like find this hidden stuff. I will tell you one more piece about Ron before I bring him up here, why he's like really a smart guy, really smart guy. Because I told you he brought that like gift bag for me for the first meeting. Well, he told me about it, he showed it to me, but then he forgot to give it to me. So I left the meeting without the gift bag. So then he calls me up a year later. He says, remember that gift bag? Well, I'm coming back to Baltimore. If you want to have lunch again, I got the gift bag for you. So that's how, not only did he trick me into one lunch, he tricked me into 2 lunches, that son of a bitch. So now I've got the Raven stuff, okay? So I can't wait to see the next time he's going to come out with to have lunch together. But actually, he's become a good friend. He's a great guy. He's a very, very sincere, authentic speaker, so you're really going to enjoy that. And if you're looking to find the hidden money that's buried in your business, I bring you Mr. Ron Sieber.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that introduction, and thank you for the warm welcome. It is certainly such a pleasure and such an honor to be here. And I want to thank you all for pushing your lunch back an hour so we could have this chance to chat. If I can find as Bill said, my name is Ron Seaver. I'm the president of Seaver Marketing Group. We're an agency out of the other side of the country. We're from Southern California, and I've been a Glazer Kennedy member for 5 going on 6 years now, which means that I have learned a ton from all the monthly newsletters. I read everything I can get my hands on that Bill and Dan write. This is my first Info Summit, but I've been to the last 5 super conferences. In fact, I'm already signed up to be in Dallas next spring. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. But with all the things that I have read, and certainly all the lessons and the presentations I've gone to, what occurs to me is that I don't know that Bill and Dan have really ever talked about what we're going to jump on here this afternoon. I think you're really going to like it. Because you're going to make a lot of money out of this. This is something that is going to make a positive impact on all of us. Now, I say that, and I realize, of course, that we're all in different businesses, right? We all do different things, so really, what are you talking about here? But for me, there are certain commonalities that we all share here that unite us, that work perfect for what we're going to talk about. And here, let me show you what I mean. If you would you raise your hand if you are currently in the business and you provide a product or you offer a service? See that? All right, doesn't get any easier than that. Hey, another thing we all have in common is that we're part of Glazer Kennedy, right? Which gives us a distinct advantage of the folks outside of this room, and that's something that we all share. And one of the things is that, here we all came in thinking that we were retailers, and really what we are is we're ranchers. God, I love it when it works. We're all ranchers. They teach us that, what you want to do is you want to build yourself. They're not customers, they're a herd. You want to get yourself a fence and build it around your customers and don't let any of them get out of here. So for us, we all share that in common. And one of the things that they teach us, if you want to get a herd and keep a herd, well, you've got to stay in touch with them. You've got to communicate with them. So let me ask you guys this. How many of you think you do a pretty good job? You know who your customers and prospects are, and you think you do a pretty good job of continuously communicating with them? Would you raise your hand? Really? All right, that's not everybody in here, but that certainly is something that they teach us here, and that's certainly something that we all have in common. Now, I'm curious to find out, in the process of what you do, how many of you ever connect your communities together? Now, by that I mean, you bring your customers together. It's either part of your business, as an offshoot of your business. Maybe it's your entire business. You literally you connect your herd together, whether you're putting on teleseminars or conferences like this, you do product sampling, you do, newsletters. Folks in the speaking business, of course, you bring your herds together all the time because that's what you do. How many of you guys ever actually bring your communities together as part of your business? All right, that's a lot of us in here, and that's great because you're really going to enjoy what it is that we're going to talk about. This dovetails very well into what you do. And I am just curious about this. Isn't everybody, but I am curious to find out if there's any of you guys here that literally that is your business. Is there anybody in here that's what you do? You put on meetings and seminars? That's part of your business? All right, so wow, we've got you guys are my kindred spirits. We're part of the same bond here because that's exactly what we do. My company works literally 52 weeks a year to put on one 3-day event. Now that event is called the National Sports Forum, and we've been doing it now for 15 years. We move it around the country every year. In fact, as you can see here, it'll be February 1st through 3rd, which means that we're now within the last 90 days. So for us, this is crunch time for us. And this will be our 15th year. So the whole process, the client base behind the National Sports Forum is we bring together the top marketing, sales, advertising, and sponsorship executives from the different leagues. So our attendees are from the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, did I forget one of the N's? The NHL, minor leagues, colleges, auto racing, horse racing, sports commissions. I think every now and then we even get an occasional bowling tournament. that shows up for that. And our purpose is to bring everybody together to kind of network, meet each other, share best practices, and learn from some of the best ideas in the business. So for us, we've got a pretty good show, I think, lined up this year. And I thought then rather than tell you about it, let me take a minute. We put a special video together. So Dave, if you're ready, let's introduce everybody to the National Sports Forum.
I've been a big supporter of the National Sports Forum since day one. No other national meeting addresses the needs of our industry as effectively and proactively as National Sports Forum. If you're looking for a positive investment on your time and money, the National Sports Forum is and always will be the gold standard.
Well, that's our event, and like I said, it's coming up. We're in crunch time right now, and we're going to be invading and showcasing sports in the great city of Baltimore. In fact, we have one of their favorite sons that has agreed to come out and lead a session for our group. You might have heard of him. He's the latest best-selling author on USA Today. Now, don't laugh. He really dresses like this, too. But he's going to do a session on really what else? Outrageous marketing that's outrageously effective, which I'm really looking forward to, and so are the teams. I think I learned something last night, though. I'm going to probably have to have a bottle of bourbon up on stage. I got to tell you this, guys. Can I share something with you? It's like sticky up here. I'm not sure what's going on with that here, but no, actually, it's a lot of fun to put on the forum. But I've got to tell you, as businesses go, putting on meetings, and those of you who put on meetings, you can probably attest to this, it can get to be really, really hairy. Because it flies in the face of what they teach us to do here at Glazer Kennedy, and that is, of course, they want us to develop multiple streams of revenue. You want to maximize your revenue streams, and of course, at the same time, you want to minimize your exposure, minimize your expenses. But, here's the truth, guys. In the meeting business, I think we have it backwards. To give you some form of reference, we've done a lot of marketing promotional work for different clients over the years, and one of our clients, as a point of reference, is Vons. Now, if there's anybody here from Southern California, you're probably familiar with it. It's a grocery store chain. It's actually owned by the Safeway people. And I was doing some work for them, and their head of marketing one time mentioned to me in passing that a typical grocery store has 18,000 products in it. Now, if you've ever worked with grocery stores, they all tend to think that they're in the real estate business, right? But I'm from Glazer Kennedy. I look at it, I think they're in the revenue stream business. I mean, they've got 18,000 excuses to get people to come in there and spend their money. Now, at the same time, in our world, most of the guys that I deal with have only got 4 streams of revenue. We've only got 4 streams of revenue, and here's the rub. Our 2 biggest streams of revenue are limited. The 2 biggest ways that we make money in our business are by selling attendee badges and trade show booths. And here's the bad part. You are limited by your physicality. I mean, Bill and Dan can only get so many chairs in this room. And it's even worse when you get outside in the trade show hall. I mean, when you run out of real estate out there, you run out of revenue. I mean, at least with Vaughn's, if they run out of ice cream, they just go out and get more ice cream, right? But for us, I mean, we got to shut down the cash register and say, hey, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next year. So our two biggest streams of revenue are capped. One that's not capped, that's always nice, is membership dues. A lot of the guys have associations, and they've got membership groups that people pay. It's not usually a lot of money, but it's not capped, and everybody pays it. It's residual income, and it can build up. It can be pretty nice. And then, of course, some folks that I run into, the aggressive guys, well, they sell ads in their program. They'll do program ads, right? But for the most part, that's pretty much it, at least until I started coming to Glazer Kennedy, and then I thought, these guys have found a fifth stream of revenue, and that's the product sales in the back of the room. And I really love that, and I hope you do too, because my products are going to be for sale back there. So, but that's a great stream of revenue. So, as you go through it with these guys, I mean, that's pretty much it. They've got, 5 ways to make money and 105 ways to lose it. I'm going to just take you behind the ropes a little bit here and talk about what it costs to put on something like a meeting like this and like the National Sports Forum. So obviously, you're going to have a meeting. You got to start with a meeting hall. You got to have a space, and space costs money. So you can have it in a meeting hall, you can have it in a convention center, you can have it in a nice ballroom like this. Give you some frame of reference. A ballroom like this is going to cost you somewhere in the neighborhood of about $3,500 to $5,000 a day just to rent the ballroom. And we need 2 ballrooms for the forum and 7 breakout session rooms. And we need them for 4 days. So right off the bat, it's like, woof, we're into that. And of course, if you want to fill your hall, you got to get some keynote speakers, right? You got to get some people coming out to your event. The big headliners and everything. As we say, if you want to bring in the mice, you got to bring the cheese. The unfortunate part is, cheese is expensive. I mean, give you some idea. You probably recognize it randomly, right? How's this for random? Couple of guys here, like a George Foreman or a Gene Simmons, to give you some idea. Now, Bill is a master negotiator, so I'm sure they paid him to be here. But for everybody else, a guy like George or Gene is going to cost you at least $50,000 to have him come out. And if you want to step it up a little bit, Donald Trump, the Donald, you're talking $100,000 to $125,000. I mean, just for having him come out and talk to the group. But you got to have it, right? I'll give you a for instance. I thought this was interesting. Just last week, do you guys remember Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? The captain of the Skyhook? I mean, he retired probably about 20 years ago. I mean, I'm dating myself here, but his agent gave me a call last week. He saw that we were doing a sports meeting, and he thought maybe we'd want to hire his client. Well, in point of fact, we don't, but I was curious to find out how much does he cost. And he goes, well, Mr. Jabbar will do a 75-minute presentation for you for $50,000. I thought, well, all right, that's right on par. And he goes, and he'll stay afterwards and he'll sign pictures and autographs for an hour to an hour and a half. Of course, that's an extra $50,000. Like, oh, really? And he goes, and if you'd like, Mr. Jabbar will come in the night before and he'll have dinner with your sponsors and your VIPs for $50,000. And he goes, and after he's all done with this, he will go out and he'll make up to 2 one-hour appearances with your trade show vendors. You get to pick your vendors. He'll go in there, spend an hour so they can drive traffic into their booth, $50,000 a piece. All of a sudden I realized that if I want to buy 24 hours of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, it's going to set me back $250,000. And I got to tell you, I don't even like the Lakers. I'm from New England. I'm a big Celtics fan. He's the last guy I want to see. All right, that's what I want to see here. That's what I want to see here. So again, you're going to do this, and so if you're going to have all of these people come out, you got to obviously advertise. You're going to have to go out and advertise these. I know guys that put on meetings, and I mean, they go the traditional route. They'll buy TV, radio, print, and then or ads in specialty magazines. But even if you're going to do it on the down low, Even if you're just going to do it to your group and kind of like the way we do it, and I think like Bill and Dan do it, and you're just going to send out flyers and brochures and postcards and hot sheets, and or you can do email. You got to get a graphic designer, a webmaster, have all that, online shopping carts. Well, guys, it is nothing to spend, and I'm sure Bill will tell you, $50,000 to $75,000 just even on the down low to advertise this. So you've spent all of this, you add it all up, it's about $200,000, and you haven't even left home yet. Now you got to put on the dang thing. So you show up here, you're going to pay things like food and beverage. If you're going to put out, breakfasts or lunches like we had for us this time, even just a can of soda, is like $4 in a hotel. It's ridiculous how this stuff just adds up. And of course, when you have your meeting, you want to have your stage, your lighting, all of this thing that has to go on here. And the one that really kills me is audiovisual. This one is like the nail in the coffin because, if you work with the hotel. Now, Dave and Blue in the group here, they've been absolutely terrific. Absolutely. I'm just saying this because I don't want them to cut off my microphone. But no, they have been absolutely great, and I hope to get their card when we're done here. Because I think, I know what it's like to put these things on, and they have definitely danced with fire here. So they've done a great job. But you deal with the hotel. I've never had a good experience dealing with the hotel's AV company. And part of it is it's absolutely ridiculous. To give you some idea, you see these slides that we have right here? Just this is one little thing that they do. Drives me crazy. In order to put these slides up on the screen, and we're all familiar with PowerPoint, you've got to have a little gizmo, a little box back there called an LCD projector, a panel projector. They've got some big screens, so theirs are bigger, but mine looks like this. They're pretty small. This is not cutting-edge technology, guys. This is just basically a box with a few wires, a light bulb, and a circuit board in there. Really, what's to it? But you got to have it. So the hotel we're going to work with in Baltimore, we were just there last week, and they said, guys, we'll be happy to rent these to you. They're $750 a day. A day. Now let's see, I need 8 of them for 4 days. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a year of college tuition, right? I'm thinking this is absolutely ridiculous. But, here's the thing. We do all of this, and it doesn't make any... We're on the hook for all of this. You can put on a meeting, whether you get 700 people or you get 7. So the thing that always blows me away is the guys that I talk to that put on meetings is the amount of risk that they're willing to take on. They take all of this stuff on, and then they hope like hell that this thing will pencil out. But I got to tell you, that's not the way that we do it. It can't be. I looked at, there's got to be a better way. And for us, the other way for us is we let other guys do the heavy lifting. We've got a lot of expenses just like they do, but we let other companies come in. You know how like Bill and Dan talk about sending the bill to the herd? I haven't heard that here, but they usually do it, they'll say, hey, we sent the bill to the herd. Well, with us, our herd is our sponsors. I would never say that to them, and I'll hold you guys to keep this our secret. But if there's something that we do with our costs, we're able to send the bill to our herd. So, everything from our program that you see out there, to, if I can get that up there, yikes. All right, so our programs, the printing that we do for that, you'll see, to all the way down to things like our cocktail napkins. These are our cocktail napkins. How about, I am such a prostitute. To, things like our room key cards, even the coffee mugs, the little coffee cups. I took these out of the room, but ours are logoed. Because we can say, we're going to need them anyways. Why don't we just put a sponsor's logo on it? So for us, thanks guys, appreciate that. So for us, while these other guys are knocking themselves out, trying to figure out, well, how are they going to pay for it? Is this all going to make sense to us? We're sitting there feeling pretty good because, we're playing with the house's money. If I get this thing here. We're playing with the house's money. And again, as we looked at it, we figured out a way to get these guys everything from our biggest expense, from our AV to our printing, to our keynote speaker costs, to all of our food and beverage. We offload that to all of these guys. So, we're sleeping great at night. Now, I say this, and not to come off like, trying to sound smug or like we're the smartest guys in the room, because believe me, we're not the smartest guys in this room. But we did discover something along the way that really helped us out and will help all of us out there. And that is, as Bill had referred to, there does exist this invisible pile of money that's out there for all of us, and to tap into it, really the one thing that you need, that all of us have, is we have a herd. And we communicate with them, and we stay in touch with them. And I've got to tell you, it has made all the difference in the world, because it's really not that hard to get a hold of this stuff once you have that. Now, I wish I could tell you that I figured this out early. And I should have. To be honest with you, I should have. But, I didn't. It took me almost going broke, flat broke, to figure this out. And it was right in front of me all the time. For us, I tried when I launched the forum, I tried to do it the traditional way. Go out there, have a nice meeting hall, I had 10 speakers my first year, a lot of advertising, food and beverage, spare no expense, make this a first-rate event. One small problem. With 2 weeks to go, I had 10 speakers and 3 attendees. Yeah, I hadn't quite figured that one out yet. I had 3 attendees. I think we were putting it on in Colorado Springs. I think there's a state law that says that you're not allowed to have 3 times as many speakers as you have attendees. So I had to call the hotel and cancel, and my punishment for this is that I owed them $65,000. I had no idea how I was going to pay for that. I had no idea. And, I should have been smart enough and quit. I was like, oh, dang, well, I guess that didn't work out. That wasn't a very good idea. Obviously, I did not have a sweeping mandate here of people that wanted to come to this event. And, so I thought I should have quit, but I didn't. I stuck it out because I loved this. I thought this was a great idea. I love this idea, and I thought it would really work. So, and 6 years later, you move the tape forward, it had grown. In fact, a couple of things had grown. I think that year we were in Cleveland, and we had grown from 3 people to 365 people. So that was the good news. The bad news is that our debt load had also grown along with it. We were now incurring the national debt. I'd gone from now owing like $65,000 to just about $250,000, which, again, guys, I got to tell you, I had no idea how to pay for this. And I had maxed out all my bank loans. I'd maxed out my credit cards. And I was starting to think that, boy, things could never get any worse, right? And then 8 months later, 9/11 happened. And people stopped going to conferences. And my attendance went down that year, as bad as it was, my attendance went down 45%. And, I tell you what, it's really hard when you think about it, because I'm sitting there trying to think, what the heck am I going to do? And so as I was thinking about this, and it's like, it always kind of happens. Just you get to your very lowest part, it's gut check time. You start to think, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. And all of a sudden, that little light bulb goes off, right? It always does. In my case, I got kind of a thick head, and it's a very dim light bulb. Takes me a while to see the obvious, 15 water, right? So I was sitting there thinking, dang, I know what the answer is. The answer's been right there in front of me all the time. I just didn't even realize it. And that's when I realized, man, oh man, in order for me to get ahead, the only way I was going to get ahead is if I start by taking a step back. Go back to where I came from and push it forward. And for me, stepping back was getting into the world of sponsorship. Because for the 11 years before I started the forum, that's all I did. I was neck deep in sponsorship. I spent most of the 80s on into the 90s handling sponsorship for the San Diego Padres. For those of you that aren't baseball fans, the San Diego Padres are perennially the last team in the National League West. Believe me, we need all the sponsors we can get, right? So I went from being on the Padres to I went on the agency side for 3 years. And I started working with all kinds of different clients: Gillette, True Value, Upper Deck, Hunt Weston Foods, Hager Slacks, Royal Oak, Denny's. You name it, we did it. From programs involving the Summer Olympics to programs involving the Super Bowl, from $2,500 quick hitters all the way into packages that were worth almost $1 million. So I had gone through that. In fact, if I were to take a pencil to it and try to figure it out, I think now I've been 25 plus 27 years in the sponsorship business, probably put together over 1,300 sponsorship packages worth over $112 million. Now, I tell you that so that you know, I may not know anything about meeting putting on, but I know a lot about sponsorship, right? So I'm not, I can walk my talk. I'm not one of these consultants up here that can tell you like 64 ways to make a watch, but can't tell you what time it is. So shame on me, because I should have known this all along, that there was certainly, that was my way out. Because in sponsorship, it's not about the sports, it's about the herd. And when I started putting the dots together and I started realizing it, man, that made a tremendous, tremendous difference in my business. Now, I think for a lot of you guys out there, you might be thinking, sponsorship? What in the world? Well, I'm here to tell you, for those of you that put on meetings, you put on conferences, those of you in the speaking business, you put out a blog or a webinar, you teach classes, you IBAs out there, IBAs, people in service clubs. Another word for sponsorship is found money. Another word for it is sponsor, because there's two things. If you'll add this one little tweak to what you're already doing here, two things are going to happen. One is, you're going to find this new revenue stream that you're able to do here. And the other best part of it is you'll be amazed. Was it Bill and Dan talk about the little hinges that swing big doors? Guys, this is one of those little hinges that swings very big doors. And each and every one of us in this room I hope you're thinking about this. How does this work for my business, right? Isn't that what they teach us to do? How does this work for my business? Well, these little hinges can swing big doors for you. And here's the best part. You can do sponsorship, and you don't have to do anything more different than what you're already doing. Let's face it. Bill and Dan were already having a meeting here, right? They were already putting out materials. They were already going to have Frank Kern up here. Why wasn't Frank Kern sponsored? He could be present. In fact, I'd love to spend an hour with Frank Kern and find out why Frank Kern isn't sponsoring Frank Kern. With everything that he does and the herd and the access that he has out there, to be able to reach out to people and, even if he's just wearing the shirt. I'll give you an example you guys all know. I read something that last year, I know you all know Tiger Woods, right? He made $96 million last year. $96 million. Of that 96, only $6 million of it was playing golf. $6 million was his purses in playing golf last year. He hurt his leg and he was out. But he makes all the rest of it in endorsements and sponsorships. It's a tremendous, tremendous revenue stream. For us, as you look at it, it made all the difference. We went from, making no money on sponsorship to where all of a sudden now, as we start looking at our event in Baltimore, sponsorship's going to add up to, to about $880,000. That's the cash and in-kind value of what sponsorship is going to be worth to us this coming year. Now, that's a pretty big number. I hope that gets your attention. It should. But I'm here to tell you, there isn't anything more different or more special about my meeting than there is yours. The reason why I'm getting it is because I know three things. One, I know to ask for it. To ask for it. You got to know that it's out there. It's half the game. They say half the battle is showing up. Well, half the battle is just asking for it. Knowing that this is out there. And two, it's knowing how to ask for it. And of course, three, it's knowing who to ask for it. You nail these three things, and guys, it's duck soup. Now, I know for some people thinking, wow, $880,000, that doesn't seem feasible. And I can't say that I wouldn't feel any different if I were out there and I was getting introduced to this, but maybe if you don't want to go into it full throttle like we do, maybe you just want to dip your toe in the water, and make a few bills go away or add another $30,000 or $40,000, you can certainly do that. It's not that hard to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So in order to do this, let's get ourselves under the same umbrella here. Do we have, by show of hands, do we have any sports fans here? Any sports fans? All right. Any of you look like this? All right. I think this is Frank Kern. This is what he was doing on Halloween. But honestly, those of us who are involved in the world of sports, really, where would sports be today without our friends from Coca-Cola, Budweiser? They make sports. But for those of us that aren't sports fans out there, well, one of the things that you're probably starting to notice is that, sponsorship and advertising is really starting to creep in everywhere, into all corners of our community. A great example for me was driving down to the airport. I live out in San Diego, out by San Diego State. So to go to the airport, to come here, I get on the freeway, and the first thing I run smack dab into is big signs for Viejas Arena, promoting Viejas. It's an Indian casino, right? I'm heading down Highway 8. The next thing I see on my right-hand side is Qualcomm Stadium, with their big signs and everything, home of the San Diego Chargers. And then, of course, to get to the airport, I have to take a left at the iPay1 Sports Arena, pull into Lindbergh Field, which is right next to Petco Park. I mean, as I'm getting out of the car, my youngest son says to me, he goes, "Hey, Dad, now don't forget, you promised to get us tickets for an upcoming show at the Cricket Wireless Amphitheater." I mean, guys, it is rampant, it is out there, it's just growing, it's getting into all corners of our society. And the reason why it is because it's very, very big money. How big? Well, there is actually a group out of Chicago called IEG. I'll tell you guys about it. It stands for International Events Group. It's been around since the early 80s. It's been owned and operated by the Euchman family for a long time. And they are the ultimate source of all things sponsorship driven. If it's training, tracking, teaching, and sponsorship, believe me, these guys are reporting about it. And one of the things that they report about is how much money is spent here in the United States on underwriting different events and properties, groups like yours and groups like mine. And according to IEG, that this year, 2009, companies here in the United States will underwrite events to the tune of $17 billion. $17 billion. And I'm sure there's a few of you guys out there that say, geez, I wouldn't mind knocking off a piece of that. And certainly you can, but if you're thinking out there, well, yeah, but I'm not the New York Yankees. I mean, let's say I've got a 50-member IBA in Albuquerque or Oklahoma City. I mean, are there any companies out there that would want to sponsor me? And my answer is, you'd be surprised. In fact, according to our friends at IEG, they said that the fastest growing category out there in America today of sponsorship is meetings and associations. According to IEG, over $500 million will be spent this year underwriting meetings like yours and mine. And that's just the cash spend, guys. That's just the cash spend. And I don't mean to make little of it, but I'm here to tell you that if I were to be up here 2 years from now, that number would be a drop in the bucket compared to what that number is going to be like once guys like James Malinchak or Frank Kern, Bill Glazer, guys like you start drawing a bead down on this kind of stuff. Because it's a lot of money. And a lot of it is, it's like, why, you might be asking, again, why would a company want to sponsor you? Well, a lot of that is based in the definition of what sponsorship is. So let me take you inside that. And again, I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen a lot of definitions of sponsorship, but for my linking, I'll go back to my friends at IEG because I think they've got the best one. This one's a bit of a writer-downer, right? Sponsorship, the trading of cash and or in-kind products or services in exchange for the right to be officially affiliated with your team, event, or program. Now, to go off the track for a second, go off the script, this is a couple of times you've probably seen me use the word in-kind products, and I want to explain that. Cash we got, right? Cash we got. But what's this in-kind product stuff that you're talking about? And for those of you that are getting into the world of sponsorship, well, that's good old-fashioned horse trading. That's trading what you have for what you want. And there are a lot of companies out there, particularly those of you who are just now starting to get your toes in the water, where you're going to be able to trade, for us, for our program or our agenda mail piece that we do, we put out on the forum. Again, I don't want to pay that ticket. I spend a lot of money on printing, not if I can offload that to one of my secondary partners, right? And so you'd look at it and it's like, that's your in-kind trade. You're able to offset what you want in exchange for giving them an association and an affiliation with your event. So now you ask the question, well, now why? Why would a company be willing to underwrite your event? Well, there's probably a lot of different reasons for that, but it all boils down to one very, very good reason. They're going to sponsor your event because it's very good business for them to do so. It's very good business for them to do so. I think, there's two that I call it the killer 1-2 punch that you're able to do for them. One is you give them exactly what they need, and the other one is you give them something that they can't get anywhere else. Now, Dan talked about this. I stuck my head in here, and he was talking about, having the list and having the association. Remember how he just said that? You got to have the list, and you guys have it, and you got to have the association. Well, guess what? You got both of that. You've got everything exactly what they need. See, every company out there knows that in order for them to be, successful, even to survive, it's predicated on their ability to be able to not only get out in front of clients, but to stay out in front of clients, right? What is it P.T. Barnum says, that a terrible thing happens when you stop promoting, you stop advertising? What is it that happens? Nothing. That's right. It's get out in front of these people or die, but you got to get out in front of the right people. So a good message to market match, in other words, an affiliation with your group, is worth its weight in gold to these guys, because you're not only able to get them out there, but you're able to do something that they can't get anywhere else. I mean, they could always get people. They buy advertising, right? They buy advertising, and they're getting exposure. But you give them association. You give them face-to-face, touch-point access to the people that they really, really need to get in front of. And you do it every month. You do it every season. You do it every year. You do it all the time. You do it in a way that they can't get it done anywhere else. I mean, let's face it, if they were going to do advertising, I mean, I'm sorry if there's advertising guys out here, but hell, advertising's annoying, right? I mean, it interrupts all the stuff we really like. You get into the last 2 minutes of the ball game, boom, they hit you with advertising, right? The last 5 minutes of the movie, wham, they stop it. You're driving down the freeway listening to some great music, and not only do they stop for an ad, they stop for like 7 minutes of ads. I mean, at best, we tolerate we legislate against advertising, right? But not sponsors. We celebrate our sponsors. See, sponsors make things that we love possible. They're part of our family. It's the way you introduce them. It's the way that you indoctrinate them into your group. They are seen as part of the solution, not part of the problem. Now, I'll give for an example here. As you take a look, we have some sponsors. Is there anybody here from City Print? City Print, are you out there? Are they here? Oh, bummer, because I was really going to embarrass them. I was really looking forward to it. Or how about McManus or Infusionsoft? Is there anybody here from any of those companies? Wow, they've already left. I hope they paid their bill. But honestly, here's the great thing that happens when you are a sponsor of theirs. It's what we call the power of transference. All of us are here because we really believe. We're part of Bill and Dan's family. We're here because we believe in what they say, in their message. So when Bill and Dan stand up here and they say, hey, I want to thank my friends at City Print for making this year's Info Summit possible, well, you know what? And then he goes on to say, you know what? We've been working with City Print for years. They've never missed a deadline. They always come in under budget. Frankly, their prices are so cheap, I don't know how they stay in business, right? A really neat thing starts to happen here, because even though we don't know City Print, because of our relationship with Bill and Dan, it automatically transfers into a relationship that we want to have with City Print. We trust them, they trust City Print, therefore we trust City Print. And I'd be here to say that probably City Print's going home, they've already left in fact, with 10 times more bids than they would have gotten, if they'd bought an ad in the program. It's that valuable power of association. So now if you're starting to understand what this is all about, I want to get into, you start to think and you're like, wow, maybe this would be right for me. But I want to get into what we call the 5 biggest misconceptions or fallacies of sponsorship. All right? I call these my yabbits. Because you get into that conversation, the guy goes, well, yeah, but, right? So these are the 5 biggest yabbits that we run into. Number 1, sponsorships are only for the big guys. I can't do it, I'm a little guy. Sponsorships are only for the big guys. And I'm here to tell you, it is for the big guys. I mean, the big guys are all over it. But I'm also here to tell you that the sponsors are becoming more and more cognizant of what you're doing. And they want to pay attention to what you're doing. Now, why is that? Because of this. See, it's like Find Waldo. With all the logos in there, there's actually a trophy in the middle there somewhere, but you can't see it through all the logos that are on these guys. And the sponsors are getting sick to death of this stuff, you guys. Now, you guys, on the other hand, you guys are great. You're cleaner than the first snow on Christmas morning. You got nothing going on. If I sponsor your event, I'm the biggest deal going on with you. I'm not working with this. So quite opposite. It's not just for the big guys, it's for us too. I mean, we're little guys, right? And we're doing great. The second thing is, finding companies interested in sponsoring your event or your association is hard to do. And the corollary to this I hear all the time is like, yeah, this is an awful lot. This is hard work. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say that this is some get-rich-quick scheme. Take 2 pills and you'll lose 50 pounds by Monday morning. No, you're going to have to work it. This is not a donation, guys. These people are now your partners. Your job is to do what you do, but while you're doing what you do, help them to get the exposure and affiliation that they're doing out there. Just take them on a ride with you. Let them ride shotgun. All right, so finding companies interested, as I talked about. These companies are looking for you. They need you more than you need them. I mean, face it, there's so much clutter and competition for the advertising attention out there, and you come along and you've got all these great people that are in the market for that kind of a product, and you're going to tee them up. Believe me, these guys are actually looking for you. So the next one is, well, there's no real money to be had selling sponsorships to your event. I always love this one because, guys, let me tell you, you owe it to yourself to give this one a serious run. Because if you're a student of ours, you're going to find out we don't mess around. We don't mess around. For our own event, we put on a 3-day conference, and if you want to be an official sponsor of the National Sports Forum, it starts at $25,000 and it goes up. All right, $25,000 and it goes up. And here's the other thing. We won't do a 1-year deal with you. The minimum that we'll do with you is 3 years. Some guys, we even talk about 5 years. So this is money that's locked in. When we're done with Baltimore in February, we start working the next day on Louisville. Our 2011 will be in Louisville. We'll be with Churchill Downs. All right? I already know that I'm sitting on six figures of income before I've ever sold my first attendee badge or my first trade show booth. I got to tell you what, that's a really, really nice feeling to have. And the folks that we counsel about sponsorship is I don't want to see you sending out anything for less than $10,000. Anything less than $10,000, you guys, with what you're going to do, I mean, it's not worth your time, energy, and effort to put that out there. And you know what? It's not really worth theirs to field it either. You either go big or you're going to go home. Number 4, short of having a banner, you've got little value to offer to a sponsor. Well, it's because of the things that you're going to do. I mean, we are going to teach you guys, hey, it's not about standing up there, hanging a banner, and thanking Louis for providing the pizza tonight's IBA. I mean, you have to incorporate, we want you to incorporate your sponsorship into everything that you're doing. In fact, I'll show you a little video. We do this ourselves, and it's called Sponsorship 365. Before you cue it up, Dave, just a second, let me explain. We bring our sponsors, as part of their sponsorship package, we fly them, their key decision maker, and their spouse out to San Diego every year for a weekend 6 months after the forum. They come out for 3 days. We fly our steering committee out. These are 20 major decision makers in the sports industry with their spouse, and they spend a great weekend together. As you might imagine, a lot of business gets done at this event, and we pick up the nickel for it. We're happy to do it. It makes our sponsors delighted. We do a little business while we're there because we sit down, we take our sponsors on Saturday, we put them in a boardroom, we sit down with them, and our job is to spend the morning working on their business because they're our sponsors, they're our partners. And it's not just me, it's all 20 of my steering committee members. That's what we're doing. And the first thing we show them to get them in the right frame of mind, because again, it's been 6 months since this event, so we want to get them psyched about the forum again. So we started by showing this video. Dave, if you would. we let them go home, obviously, with this CD-ROM, because we want them all excited about what they've just seen and what they've been a part of. And I got to tell you, if you take nothing else out of this meeting, I hope you'll take this out of it, because it's one of the most valuable things that you can do. Not only, what do they call it, a stick? You know, not only does it help you stick your sponsorships, but on top of that, as you can bet, you know, we wear the hell out of this sending it to prospective sponsors. You know, we're out there asking them for their money, and they see stuff like this, and it's all exciting and everything. I mean, it's not, you know, studio quality, but we have fun with it, and the sponsors like it. And they, you know, the guys from Budweiser said that they get videos all over the place. They love ours because, you know what? It's one of the best things that they've ever seen. You know, and it really, really works out for them. So this is something that it's because you're willing to do so much more than just hang banners is the reason why you can charge the really big money for this. And of course, the last thing I wanted to mention is the only value a sponsor can bring to the table is to write you a check. Hey, don't get me wrong. I got nothing wrong with checks. Checks are beautiful. Cash is king, right? But it's only one of what we call the 3 C's of sponsorship. There's 3 C's of why you want to do sponsorship. The first one, of course, is cash, and we love cash. The second one, of course, if you put on meetings or an event like we do, then you know that there's an ebb and flow of your revenue stream. I mean, we probably get 80, 85% of all of our attendee and trade show revenue in the last 90 days leading into the conference. So that's our we're in our rainy season now. But as soon as the forum is over, I got to tell you guys, it gets so dry, we refer to it as nuclear winter. Nothing grows, all right? So that's where but I still got to pay the bills, still got the overhead, still got to turn on the lights, right? But for us, again, that's where my sponsorship comes in handy. I structure my sponsorship contracts so that their payments are due in April, May, June, July, get me over that hurdle, right? So the cash flow for me is king. So I can help pay for all of this. And of course, the last cash is cachet. So what your mom told you, right? She told you that you're known by the company that you keep. And for a lot of people out there looking at your event, they may not know anything about you. They may not know anything about the National Sports Forum. But when you go on our website and you start looking around, you see logos like Budweiser and MasterCard, the U.S. Postal Service, Adweek, Daktronics, J.D. Powers and Associates. We just got a verbal this week from Motorola. These are all companies. You never heard of us, but I guarantee you've heard of them. So those are the 3 C's of why you want to do this. So let's kind of recap and circle back here. What have we just covered? Well, we've talked about how large the sponsorship industry is, and I wanted to expose that to you. It's a lot of money in that. The second one is, why would companies want to sponsor your event? I think it's important that you understand that they're not doing you a favor. This is a business transaction, you guys. And you are giving them every dollar's worth of that affiliation and association. So why companies would want to sponsor your event. And 3, we just touched on 5 of the biggest fallacies that you're going to run into, the yabbits about sponsorship. So hopefully if that hamster wheel is going there and you're starting to really think about this and you're going, you know what? I think this would be right for my herd. I got to pull some of this out here. Then maybe there's like probably 2 questions that are running through your head. 2 questions that I get all the time. The first one is, where do I start? All right, I don't know where to start. Where do I start? Now, I hate to do this to you. I hate to answer a question with a question, but in this case, I'm going to answer a question with 3 questions. If you want to know where to start, you have to be able to tell me these 3 things. 1, what have you got? What have you got? Tell me about your herd. Don't say, hey, I got 50 people in my IBA and they all live in Albuquerque. Well, all right, we could have figured that out. But what do you know about these guys? How deep is your knowledge about your customers? What are the things that connect them all together, that bind them to you? What are their problems? What are the things that they want? What are the things that they need? What are the things that you can give to them? The more you know, the bigger your pool of sponsors is out there. Because again, the more you know about your herd, the more you know number 2, and that's who else wants what you have? Who else wants what you have? I mean, I'm going to use the Albuquerque IBA here as an example, and you might sit there and go, well, yeah, there's 50 guys there, but, you know, all right, there's probably office supply companies that wouldn't mind tapping into those, and you IBAs out there, start writing this down. Guys like office supplies or payroll services. maybe labor services, for when they start to get business, and maybe they need temporary labor or virtual assistants. It could be software development companies. I mean, guys, the list is endless. You start thinking about CPAs, financial attorneys. Maybe they need business insurance. You start thinking of all the things that these guys could use, and the list becomes endless. And the third one is, now the first two pertain to your herd. This one pertains to you. This one pertains to you, and this one's a good one. It's a little secret, and I'm going to pick on Bill and Dan here a little bit. And this one is, who else stands to benefit from your success? Who else stands to benefit from your success? And I'm going to use this event here. There's about 600-700 people at this conference, which means that we're probably, because I know there's couples that came together, we're probably using about, 400 hotel rooms a night, okay? 700 people, about 400 hotel rooms a night. Now, I happen to know that this hotel has 765 rooms. 765 rooms. So that means that there are, a very smart man, James Malinchek, told me that you don't go anywhere without a $5 calculator. So I just want you to know, if you see James, tell him I brought my calculator with me. All right, so there's 365 rooms here, and you're here for 4 nights, right? So that's, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And by the time you're all done, your room rate, let's add in your room rate, plus your food. I've seen you guys in the bar, so that's going to get real pricey, right? Got to add that to it. So on average, you guys are probably spending somewhere in the neighborhood of about $225 a night. $225 a night times $225. All right, so 365 times 4 times 225. This is worth, the meeting rooms, the rooms that we didn't fill up here, $328,500, $329,000. Now, do you think the hotel, knowing that, would be disappointed to see Bill and Dan bring another 300 people to this conference? Of course not. They'd love to see that. So, all right, if you're Bill, why don't you take a page out of Jerry Maguire, go down and see the marketing director and say, help me to help you. I mean, if he could bring these guys in as a sponsor, maybe they don't have to give you $325,000, but maybe if they gave him $50,000, he'd be able to use that to maybe offer a special promotion. Maybe he could do another mailing. The things he could do with that extra $50,000, I mean, he could help. They're helping themselves. And you know what? If they don't want to do it here, I looked outside my window. There's a bunch of other hotels in this town. Business is down right now, you guys. This is the time to be out there talking to these guys, and that's what you're doing. You're talking shop. So the other question that I get is, how much can I charge? How much do I charge? Well, you know what? This one is, because here's the thought process. The biggest fear that I run into is guys out there thinking that, if I charge too much, if I go in there and I ask for too much, well, they're going to laugh me out of the building, right? They're going to kick me out of here with my tail between my legs. But on the other end of the coin, if you don't ask for enough, well, then you're going to be kicking yourself all year because you gave the damn thing away, right? So I find, actually, like 95 out of 100 people that I talk to, that if you're guilty of anything, you grossly undercharge your sponsorships. You are guilty. You think you're charging too much, and you're giving it away. And part of the reason that you give it away is because you don't really see the value of what you have. I mean, you don't really, because, the attendees here is a byproduct of what Bill and Dan are doing, right? I mean, he's happy that you paid your attendee badge and you bought your trade show booth, but honestly, that's the last as he's thinking about it. What he's not seeing is what it's worth to have you guys out there for a potential sponsor. So in order to help, I find that it's a lot harder to convince new clients to charge what they should than it is to convince sponsors to pay what you're asking for. So what I did is I came up with a little formula called W plus W plus W equals $, $, $. W plus W plus W, you might want to jot this down, because this is going to help you as you start to put your package price together on your sponsorship. Now, of course, the first W is, what do you have? And we talked about that already, remember? What do you have? What do you know about what you have? You got to be able to come to the table and give these guys information about what it is that you have. So once you have that done, the second W is, what are they worth? Now, this is a big one, guys, so stay with me on this one. Let's take that IBA in Albuquerque, because he'll sit there and say, hey, I got 50 people here. That can't be worth very much, right? I mean, what's 50 people? That's nothing. All right, but let's take one of the categories that's out there, and in this case, let's take printing. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I fully subscribe to Glazer Kennedy, and they tell us to use all kinds of different forms of media out there. And I got to tell you, we probably spend somewhere, our printing bill each year is somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $50,000. And I'm sure there's some guys out there that spend a lot more than that. But let's say that you spend half of that. Let's say that you just spend $20,000 a year. That's like, I don't know, $1,700 a month? That's like the cost of a newsletter, right? To print a newsletter. You know, so you've got everything else on top of that. But even if you just print $20,000 a year times 50 members, you don't have 50 members. What you have, guys, is $1 million worth of print possibility coming into your meeting hall once a month. And I can tell you, there's probably 17 pages worth of printers in the yellow pages in Albuquerque. Any one of those guys would be happy to buy you breakfast to sit down and talk about how they could access what it is that you have. So, I mean, that's the second part. So what are they worth? And the third one is, what would it cost them to reach these folks elsewhere? I mean, let's think about this. As you're sitting there talking and they're balking at paying your $25,000 fee, I mean, how crazy is that, right? Hey, you can be a sponsor of my 50-person IBA for $25,000 a year. You'd have to think I was crazy. But honestly, when you think about it, what would it cost them to get this anywhere else through traditional means, to tap into $1 million worth of business? And we're talking about just through traditional means. So let's say they go out and say, all right, well, we'll go out and buy some newspaper ads. So all right, let's think about this. They go out and buy some newspaper ads. They buy 2 newspaper ads, and that's probably about $4,000 to $5,000. So now you're what? You're probably talking about $400,000, $500,000 a year just to buy a couple. And they're probably on page A26 next to the obituaries. So you think, all right, well, how about radio? I mean, how much can that cost? Well, I listened to a CD that Dan did once upon a time, and he said that he tells his clients that if they don't have at least $45,000 a month to spend on radio, then don't do it. The clutter and competition is too much out there. So now all of a sudden, radio, if you're going to do a decent job, that's going to cost you $500,000. I mean, this is getting worse. And if that's expensive, then don't even talk about television. I mean, something just as inexpensive as, say, a billboard. If you're just going to do a billboard, well, one billboard will cost you like $12,500 a month. $12,500. And if you're going to buy that for a year, that's about $150,000 with your repaintings. All of a sudden, guys, the $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 that you're asking for is cheap in comparison to what it would cost them to go out there and get it someplace else. So if you start to see what I'm talking about, then all of a sudden you start to realize that, wait a minute, this makes too much sense for these guys. I mean, why wouldn't they do it? Well, in that case, if your wheels are spinning and you're thinking, you know what, I've definitely got to do this, because sponsors, there's no wonder why sponsorship is one of the fastest growing forms of advertising that's out there. So if you're sitting there thinking, you know what, I think I want to get started with this, then that's great, because we want to help you. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
All right. You guys ready for Betty T? Wow. Wow. Let's hear it for her really loud now. Come on.
Thank you. Oh.
Betty, look at this, standing
Thank
O.
you.
Could you do me a favor and hand me that remote
Thank
that's right
you.
there?
Hey.
Yay. She's an old pro now at this.
Yeah,
This
right.
is great.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to do this in a little bit different format. I'm actually going to be interviewing her, and then we're going to take a lot of questions from you guys. And the reason I'm interviewing her is I'm interested in this stuff, and I don't know anything about it, like maybe some of you guys don't know anything about it. So I'm going to be asking a lot of easy questions, Betty?
Yeah, he doesn't know the hard ones, so
Okay.
he can't stop me.
Alrighty.
Oh, all righty.
Okay, so this is all about preparing your business for sale. And I need to make this announcement before we get started. Networking reception tonight, just very quickly, a little housekeeping. Networking reception tonight is at 8 o'clock, is that correct?
Yes.
8 o'clock.
Come in your cowboy gear.
Come in your cowboy gear. It's actually going to be extremely cool. Just some of the things that we're doing. We've got the book signings. Dan will be out there. You get pictures with Larry Winget. We've got Meet the Sheriff. So she's the sheriff. If you've got specific questions that from this presentation or about things that we're doing at GKIC, come saddle up. You like that? Saddle up. Next to Betty, she'll be slugging down a big beer. It's going to be really fun. And you can
I don't
ask her
drink beer.
You can ask her the questions. There'll be a cash bar. There is a auction that we're doing. There's an old-time photo booth. Just a ton of really fun. It's going to be a really fun evening, and it'll give you a chance to network with each other as well. All right, so now that my announcements are done, let's get started. So this is preparing your business for sale. Betty, before we get into this, I'd just like you to talk a little bit about your story and give the folks a little bit of background on you and how you got started in this and how you literally became one of the world's top experts in this subject.
Well, I think I probably started the way you all did. It got to a point where I was working in corporate America, and I felt like, I can do this myself. I don't need to do it for others. And I had been part of several M&A, merger and acquisition types of things, where we bought a company, we took it public, and went on. But I thought, I can do it myself. So I wanted to go out and get the money, work with VCs, and find a company that I could sell. And I had a very good mentor. He was here, by the way, the past few days. He's on our board now. John Kernan is his name. And that's a real good thing for all of you to have if you're going to go through this. So I called John, and I said, I'm going to start a company, and what do I do? And John said, well, first you got to go to this guide. It's called the Pratt Guide of Venture Capital.
The what guy?
Pratt, P-R-A-T-T. And in that guide, it lists all of the VCs all over the country and what kind of businesses they're interested in, what territories or what states they invest in, how much money they invest, do they have any dry powder, which means do they have any money remaining from their last fund? Because you don't want to go to someone who doesn't have any money left to invest. So John said you just got to go through that, figure out which ones are the ones that will invest in a company in Chicago or wherever you're going to buy it, and that's the first thing you do. So I did that, and I figured everything out, and then picked up the phone and called John, and I said, okay, I did that, now what do I do next? So you get the picture. John became kind of my mentor who really helped me through the entire process. And the first time I did it, I didn't know what I was doing or how to do it, but I've done it for 6 or 7 times now. And every time you do it, there's a lot of different roads that you take. But I think that there's definitely a formula that you have to follow. Because if you don't follow it, you'll be in trouble, and it'll take you 10 times as long, or you'll never make the deal. That's if you're buying. On the sell side, I think it's the same way. If you're selling, you're going to go through a lot of lumps and a lot of questions and a lot of details that the buyer is going to want. And I think what we want to talk about tonight is how you prepare for that sale. Because if you don't prepare for it right, you're going to just go crazy when it's time to go through due diligence, which is the period that you go through for about 6 to 12 months before they finally buy you. And they give you 8,000 questions, and if you don't know the answers, you got to dig them up, and it's just not pretty. So,
Tell one of, just to give them a perspective, tell them one of your, you've gotten so many stories, but tell them one of them, like what your favorite one of your favorite stories, because the stories of themselves are really instructive about how all of this works.
Yeah, I think one of my favorites, this is like a kid, right, is when we bought from Control Data, we bought their Plato education division, Plato Training, if you've heard of it, it's K-12 training. And Control Data was getting rid of a lot of their companies that weren't making any money. So Plato at the time was doing about 20 million in revenues and losing 10, had about 500 people, and we had to go find people who'd want to invest in it. So you kiss a lot of frogs as you go through this process. You go through a lot of VCs. You just have to find the right one that's going to be interested in that deal at that time. So we finally found the money. We got the money. We got 3 different investors and made the deal with Control Data. I think we paid $4 million for the company then. And after about 6 months, we found that they had lied in one of their due diligence questions. It was a big lie. It was one of the divisions. It was certification and testing centers that were run by the NASD, they forgot to tell us that the agreement that they had with them was expiring in a year. And this was a big part of the revenue stream. So as we went through the process of getting rid of people and trying to whittle down all the expenses, we got rid of probably 80% of the people right away. We started running out of money. And, so we're trying to figure out how to get more money, but the window was closing, we couldn't get more money. And at the same time, the IPO market opened up. And at the same time, we were suing Control Data to get back some of the money that we paid for this company. So there are all these things going on. And so we decided, well, let's go public. An IPO would be great. This is around 92. So we started the IPO process, and that was pretty long. And as we went through that, we ran out of more money because IPO costs money. So we got to a point where we either had to go Chapter 11 or IPO. It's a nice decision, isn't it? It's like, well, I'd rather do the IPO than the Chapter 11, but long story short, we made it, and we went public. But there are 3 months where, if it wasn't for sheer determination and perseverance, we would have gone Chapter 11. So I think the story in that one is never give up, no matter how bad it looks. Because we went public, we made a couple $100 million, and the company today.
Oh, wait a minute, did you hear that? Yeah, we went public, made a couple $100 million, and just like,
Well, it took
it's
about.
like I sold a couple ebooks, is the way she puts it, right?
Yeah, well, it took a few more years, but,
Oh, okay.
after we went
That's
public,
fine.
yeah, so it took us 3 years.
Yeah, that's not bad, right? Okay, so you've got a really great quote up here. Success is not about the right place, right time, right stuff. It could be engineered by following a process. Talk a little bit about what that means.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people think it's got to be the right time, the right place, the right product, and that's the only way you can make something successful. I think that they don't always have to be all the right things. You can have a mediocre product, and you can make it happen. You can be hugely successful with a mediocre product, but what you have to do is follow a formula. There is a formula for success here. Many people have done this over and over. It's like a sales cycle. If you have a sales cycle, Larry, for a product, then you got to follow the sales cycle or you won't get what you need to get out of it. And in this especially, there'll be a winding road, there'll be nicks, and there'll be lots of scratches as you go, but you got to try to follow the formula. If you don't, you're just not, your chances are 1 in probably 10,000 of succeeding. So make sure you read up on it, get educated, and follow that formula if you want to raise money or sell your company.
Okay, so this can be either raising money. Do you follow the same procedure, Betty, if you're raising money or if you're going to sell your company?
Well, there's some differences, but like I said, if you're selling your company, it's just the other side of the equation, right? You're buying it or you're selling it. If you're buying it, you're going to go through all these things. If you're selling it, they're going to go through all the things for you. You just got to, the data goes to them instead of them giving you the data.
Okay, so let's go over part of the formula here. I can just, so the thing is, prepare your business plan. What needs to happen in this business plan? Well, first, before we get to that, let me ask you a question. This is different for you because when you took over GKIC, you love it and all of that. But what is the biggest mistake that you see entrepreneurs like we have here making, like right off the bat? That makes it very difficult for them to sell their business.
Well, they're just not prepared. They never get prepared. They think that they're going to never sell their baby, and they're going to grow it and grow it and grow it, and then someday what will happen is you'll decide now's the time, but you won't be ready for it, and then you'll go through a terrible process or you'll never sell it. So I think that even if you don't plan to sell it for another 5 or 10 years, get ready now so that you'll be ready when that time comes to go through that process. I wanted to ask you all a question. How many of you have sold a company?
Wow.
A lot. And did you have, since you're sitting here in front, have you had problems or was it a very easy sale for you? Did you prepare for it?
It was about a 3-month sale. We took our business and broke it up into divisions and sold them off to competitors. So each of the competitors already knew who we were, and they were very happy with the business.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So what's your name? Michael. So what Michael was saying is, yeah, he had a lot of problems and had to prepare a lot of information, but it only took 3 months. And you took your company, divided it into 3 divisions, and sold each division off to a different competitor. That's great.
Yeah, really smart.
It's a great way to do it.
All right, so let's talk about preparing the business plan and exactly what goes into that. So, and you talked about this before, and you've explained this to me. How early should we be doing this? So that even if we don't think we're going to sell it for 10 years, start now.
All right. I think if you don't even want to sell it, no matter what you're doing, you should have a business plan. And I know entrepreneurs hate to put together business plans. Everybody does. It's like, that's a pain in the butt. But unless you do it, you don't know where you're going. And it doesn't have to be a 50-page business plan. It can be easy. You know, it can be 10 or 12 pages. But you got to go through the things that you need to know. Like, what is your product? What is your competition? What is your market? What are your revenue plans for the year 1, year 2, year 3? What are you going to be developing in product? What products do you need to develop? So it becomes kind of a roadmap for you. You know, here's where I'm going. And then you should always review it at least, you know, I'd say quarterly, but not everybody does that either. So you should be reviewing it, going over it, and changing it accordingly.
Okay. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about your first thing here, setting a time frame.
Right. So the way I've always done it is I've said, what we got to do is figure out, when do we want to sell this company? So you buy a company and you say, oh, I want to sell it in 5 years, let's say. Then work backwards. What do I have to do between now and 5 years from now to sell it? So some of the first things you do, and you also have to identify your potential acquirers right away. And if you don't know them, figure out who they are. Because you have to figure out who might want to buy you, because you should be tweaking your products or developing new products that then those acquirers will want. So you're kind of making yourself pretty for the right guy to come along and want to marry you.
That's really interesting, right? I mean, I want to stop you there, because that's something new.
Yeah, I hadn't told you that one before.
Yeah,
he always tries to get things out of me.
That's right,
Yeah.
I do.
But he likes the married part.
I don't like the married part, actually. I enjoy
I know.
women getting pretty for me. Anyway, no, but I think that's really interesting that, so you say, okay, these people, what are they going to be interested in? How can I develop products or services integrated with what I currently have that make it more appealing? Very, very strategic thinking.
Right, because if they're a bigger company and they're a strategic company, they're always on the lookout for, you know, who's out there, and do they have good products, or do they have good services, do they have good people? If we buy them, are we going to buy all this product that added to what we do is going to make us 3 times as big? So if you look at it that way and then start meeting with these competitors, the CEO of the company or the president, and you know, your meeting isn't about, I want to buy you, you want to buy me, or, you know, look at me now, buy me. It's more about, can we have a strategic partnership of some sort? You know, I've looked at your products and what you do, and I think that if we, you know, in this market or in this niche, get together and look at how to sell these products, this could be very good for both of us. So you kind of start that partnership or relationship that way, and then you could get closer, and if you sell a lot, if the revenues increase, it almost becomes a natural marriage.
Got it. So this gentleman here sold it, your business broke it apart, sold it to competitors. The other thing you have is your strategic buyer, and then financial VC or private equity.
Right.
So explain those.
So depending on what kind of company buys you, competitor, strategic buyer, or financial, they're going to be giving you less or more money. What I mean by that is if it's a competitor and they want to take you out so that they get more of the market, they'll pay a lot for you. Because if they buy you and now they've got twice as much product, twice as many salespeople, whatever, they're going to make a lot more money. So it behooves them to, depending on where they are, to buy a competitor. The strategic buyer is also a good buyer because they're buying you for, well, almost like the competitive buyer. The competitive buyer, though, maybe just to get more market. The strategic one is, this is very strategic product for me. I really need this in my cast of characters in my library of offerings. And it's going to take me a long time to develop it. So why not buy someone who's already taken 5 or 6 or 10 years to buy it? So that's a good buyer. The financial buyer is probably the worst, but they're still good buyers. Any VCs in here? So I can talk about VCs.
So they're not here, so you can really talk about them?
Right. So financial buyers are in it just for the money. So they'll give you the lowest valuation. But I've worked with a lot of VCs and had financial buyers, and they're good buyers too. I'm just saying it could be the difference in getting 10 or 20 million for your company.
Okay, so talk about,
There's a
I'm
question
sorry,
here.
questions.
I was just curious, where would you say you fell in? What category when you bought GKIC and then?
Let me just repeat.
Yeah.
What was your attraction to this particular business? Because I've sold my business, and I would think, looking at, I've been around since the early 90s with GKIC, and then my question to you would be, it's a little bit of a risk because you had Bill and you had Dan, and you got to bed if one had a heart attack or something and died.
Then you have one.
Yeah, let's say Dan did, he's really the central focus of the business, so you were taking a big risk. I'd just like to hear your thoughts on all that.
So there, just for the recording, there's 2 questions. The first question is, where did you fall in this when you bought GKIC? That's the first question, so answer that one.
So we were definitely the financial buyer. We were backed by private equity and looking for an opportunity to buy a company that we felt we could really grow and make a big impact. We thought that this market was a huge market, the niche was perfect, and so we were definitely the financial buyer.
So the second question was, what about the risk? Because obviously this is a different type of company than you have bought in the past. So address that a little bit, please.
Well, I think the risk is twofold. The first one was, why did we buy this particular company? And I think at first we were, what does this company do? What does this business do? Went to some info summits and looked at some stuff and we're like, whoa, what is this? But then after we started looking more and getting into it, and I did go undercover to one of the info summits and met some people.
That must have been something for you.
That was part of the due diligence, yeah. Yeah, that was something, because Frank Kern spoke at that one. So, we looked at it, but the more we looked at it, and we looked at the financials and the opportunities and the things that we could do to make it really a lot better, we kind of fell in love with it. So, and then I think your last question was about the risks of Dan and Bill. So we did spend a lot of time on that, and I think anybody buying a company, even if you're buying like Nightingale Conant, or if it's, it's a sales company I'm thinking of.
Agora?
Not Agora, but so there's a lot of people who have left a legacy with their name on it. So we looked at it and we thought, well, it's very important to be covered, and we do have great life insurance for them. But on the other hand, I think there's a huge opportunity here, not only to have Dan and Bill, but also to have a lot of other experts. So one of the things that we are doing is adding a lot of experts, we're calling it our expert board of advisors, to work with Dan and Dave and all of us to create a lot of new products. So you'll be seeing them at Info Summit. Some of the ones that Dave just talked about are on our board of experts. So we're surrounding Dan now with 15 people that have great expertise in this area.
Okay. Yeah, another question, yes. Yes, you in the green, sure.
Obviously, any business might have a competitor or a strategic buyer that they want to buy it, but they have a business that would also have VC or private equity acquire. What size business would it need to be before you get on their radar for it?
Can we repeat the
That's
question?
good, yeah.
So the question is, for a VC or private equity, what size business is the right size, or the minimum size, I guess is what you're asking, to get on their radar? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, minimum or ideal, yeah.
Right, so that's where the Pratt's Guide comes in. Because in Pratt's Guide, there must be...
Where do you get this Pratt's Guide? Because I think
Well,
it'd be valuable.
I think it's available online now, but when we were first looking at it, it was like a big encyclopedia in the library is where we went, so we looked at it there.
So it's kind of like the SRDS, right? The SR,
Yeah, where
standard
it
rate
lists
and
all
data,
of them.
but
It lists them
exactly.
all. If you're
Okay.
a VC, you're listed. And what they also list in there is how much money a VC wants to invest in each of their companies that they buy. So some, all they want to invest is 500,000. Some are 200,000. So they invest in real small companies. Some, the minimum they invest is 10 million. So if you go out on the West Coast and work with some of the biggest Draper, Fisher, Jurvetsons and some of those guys, if you're not asking for 10 or 20 million, they're not interested. So I think, you could be doing 100,000 in revenue or 1 million, but what they're looking for is the opportunity. So they want to see what the product is, the market niche. I mean, look at Facebook and some of the others. They're worth hundreds of billions almost now, and I don't know if they're making money.
Question was, is that revenue or sales or profits? I mean, what is it? Is it profits?
It's revenue. Sales doesn't always equal revenue, but most of the time it does. So if you've got multi-year contracts that you're selling, then the revenue that you take from them is only 1 year at a time. So if you sell $300,000 deal over 3 years, you only take 100 of it in revenue. That's according to the accounting GAAP rules. So that's why you have to have your financial statements in order, and you have to have them audited. Because if a company wants to buy you, you tell them I'm doing 3 million and I'm making 500,000, they're going to say, says who? If you say it, it's okay, but they're not going to believe that. They want them audited. So that's one of the points, I don't know if it's on this page, is you've got to get an auditor, you've got to have your financials in order, your income statement and your cash flow, all of that. You don't have to understand every single little thing, but you should do that.
Okay, so we've got setting your time frame, identifying potential acquirers, and then identifying why they want to acquire you. Let's talk a little bit about that.
I think it's the same point as we were talking about before. You're looking for companies that might be interested in you, and then you have to figure out why would they want you? Maybe today they wouldn't, but if in 5 years you do these 6 things that you put on your priority list, they'll be coming to you, because you've got the stuff that they need that they haven't had the money to develop, or you've got, one of our companies was acquired by an Australian company, Ari, who was looking for a footprint in the US. They didn't have any salespeople here. They were all over Asia, all over Australia. We only had the US, but we were pretty big in the US. So that was why they acquired us. In that one, I was looking for potential acquirers after we bought this company, not this one, but another one. And looked in Australia, found the report that the CEO was putting together for the board, and his #1 priority was to get a footprint in the US. So I'm like, oh, I have that. So I called the CEO and I said, I was reading your report to the shareholders, and I know your #1 priority. I think we should meet. And we met, and it took about 3 months. So there's a lot of little things that you can do too, if you do your homework right. So identify who might be your competitors, who might want to buy you, and then figure out why and start working on that. I think a lot of you are kind of, just doing everything to make money and grow your business. But if eventually you want to sell, this is the kind of stuff you do.
Okay, great. Okay, so, okay, this is where we're going to get into the nitty-gritty details here.
Yeah, can we
okay?
make this bigger?
No, I can just read it.
All right,
I
all
can just read it. Okay, so this is based upon a 5-year plan, Betty, that we've got here?
Right, yeah. So what we talked about before was if you want to sell your company in 5 years, you're going to work backwards. And since you can't do everything at once, figure out what you can do year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, so that you are where you need to be by the time you want to sell. But you may decide you need 7 years. You have a question? Sure, absolutely. You'll have to pay me, though. No, I'm not selling. I'm not selling.
She's turning into a platform
I don't sell
salesperson,
from the
just so
stage.
you know, yeah.
He's trying to teach me.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's go over year one and two,
All right.
hypothetically. So, all right, so we've done the preliminary work. We've said, okay, this person or this group of people or they're going to buy us for these reasons. Mm-hmm. So then we go through this right here.
So now we're going back to the very beginning. Let's say you're starting the company or you bought a company. So the first thing I believe in that you really have to do is if you're going to hire people, hire the right people. Hire the very best people on the planet. Pay the most that you can afford to pay, and don't try to be chintzy. Because anybody that's going to want to acquire you is probably one of the reasons will be for the best people. And people really make a difference. One of the things we did wrong once is we decided we were going to hire salespeople and pay them as little as possible because we could save $10,000 or something per salesperson. And what ended up happening is it took us a lot longer to ramp up, and it took us a lot longer to become profitable. So if you can't afford it, just pay the most for those people who really make a difference.
Now, I think some of those other ones we've discussed, but the one that is intriguing me is the bottom one there, work on the why. Explain that.
Well, that's the same thing. Why is somebody going to buy you? Keep working on the why. Keep thinking about it. You know, don't fall in love with your product and your business. Try to, if you want to position it, try to think about why would someone want me. So when you're spending money on development or anything else, develop what you think would be not only attractive to your customers, but also to a potential buyer.
All right, let's move on to year three and get to EBITDA. And I remember sitting at one of the first board, I had no idea what this was. So they're talking about EBITDA, this, EBITDA, that, and I'm acting like, oh yeah, EBITDA.
So what is it now? He forgot.
I already forgot. Who knows what it is? Who knows what it is?
All right, shout it out.
Yell it out. Okay, so for those folks that did not know what it is, explain what that is and why that is vitally important.
Well, depending on the business that you have, your business will be valued on EBITDA. So EBITDA is basically profits, the profits of your company. Not on the revenue so much, but more on, are you profitable? So if you're doing $10 million in business and you're making 2 cents, you're not going to be worth very much. If you're doing $1 million in business and you're making 300,000, you're starting to be worth money. Yes.
How much weight is put on EBITDA as compared to owner's benefits? A lot of times there's owner's benefits that they don't just not shown as the bottom line EBITDA number, and they add owner's benefits back in, or it's just simply the EBITDA number at the bottom of the P&L.
For the recording, the question was, how much weight is put into EBITDA versus benefits that the owner may receive, which doesn't directly
Or
fit
owner,
into this?
the owner brings to the table. Like, is that what you're?
What I'm saying is that there's owner's benefits represented in the expenses that
Oh.
coming to the
Right.
owner, but it's coming off the expenses and lowering the EBITDA, but the owner of the company is actually getting those benefits, thus the new owner will get those benefits too.
Well, we usually call that an add back. And so,
Really important. Great
yeah,
question.
did
No,
everybody
it's-
hear the question?
Did everyone hear the question?
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead, you can repeat it.
Well, so when somebody owns a business, what they do is they might spend a lot more money giving themselves bonuses and cars and all kinds of things. So when somebody like us buys a business, what we do is take that amount and say, now that can be included in revenue or not, depends on, and that your multiple would include that part of the revenue, if it's legit. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Who determines the multiple?
Multiple is determined by a couple of things. One is what is the vertical or the industry that you're in. So if you're in software, it's great. And software, actually, sometimes software doesn't even care about revenue or EBITDA, sorry. Software just cares about revenue. You don't have to be making money, and your multiple could be 10x, 10 times your revenue.
Now, why is that? Why wouldn't you have to be making money?
Well, it's a strategic buy,
Okay.
you know, and
Okay, got it.
software happens to be, you know, what a lot of VCs like today, and a lot of software companies make a lot of money and then get bought for billions, right? So software is really good. If you're in training, for example, multiples there are anywhere between 3x and 6x, and part of it depends on how big is your company. So if you're doing over 10 million or 8 million, then you're already past the stage where you're probably going to make it. You're not a big risk. If you're doing less than that, if you're doing 2, 3, 4 million, you're a bigger risk, so your multiple might be 3 instead of 6. So there's a lot of considerations that go into it, but part of it is what's the industry, what's the niche. They look at other players and what they've done, what other people have acquired or sold their companies for. Yes?
So regarding multiple, the fact that Bill made an exodus
Mm-hmm.
in this particular industry, did that hurt his multiple, or was his legacy strong enough that it didn't hurt his multiple? And I'm asking that question not because I want to know about GTIC.
Right.
Because
Right.
as an info marketer, being the guru, and you're developing a model that you can sell, I'm curious about what kind of glue you still need to have to in order to get the multiple you want.
Well, all of the things that I talked about affect multiple, number one. And number two, you know, when we looked at GKIC, there weren't a lot of systems in place. There weren't a lot of infrastructure. There wasn't a lot invested in people to make things grow. So you look at all that when you're acquiring a company. So that's why I'm saying to you, if you do all these things, you're just going to be a lot more valuable, because anybody that acquires you is going to look at you and say, I don't have to spend money on all these things. But if somebody comes in and says, we got to spend money on all of this, your multiple could drop 2 points.
Got it.
There's another right
Another
there.
question? Yeah, how about we go right here? She hasn't asked one yet. Again, just
Earnings before interest,
Taxes,
taxes, depreciation, and amortization. He got it.
a smattering.
All
I like
right.
that.
There's going to be a quiz at the end of this question.
Do you have a business background or an MBA is the question.
I don't have an MBA, but I could tell MBAs what to do.
All right.
I've worked with a lot of VCs, so if you start working with VCs and private equity guys, what you'll find is there's a lot of Kellogg MBAs and guys that just got out of, and they're like whiz kids with all the numbers, but at the end, they can't analyze them and they can't figure it out, so I tell them what to do.
Sir.
I own a retail store and I'm very successful. Been in business for like 60 years, and I want to sell something. You know, I'm concerned about the employees. You haven't mentioned anything about that subject. When you come into it, if you came in here with somebody who said, hey, I'm not working with her, and you know, how do you deal with the employee? You have really numbers.
So this is the heartfelt question.
Yeah.
So the question is, what about the employees that are currently working for you? So he's been in business forever. He's very successful. You've developed like almost a familial type of relationship, and so he's concerned about the employees. How do you structure that? How do you handle that?
That's a really good question.
really great question.
Because someone like you really cares about them. When we bought Plato from Control Data, they cared too, but not that much. You know, they wanted to sell the company. So what happened, we wanted to make money, and we had to get rid of 200 or 300 people. Otherwise, we would have been declaring bankruptcy sooner. So in other companies that we've acquired, we put together a business plan, and we say, here's the company that we acquired today, and here's where we want to go in the next 3, 4, 5 years. And at the end of the day, what we do is look at every single individual and see what they're adding to the business and what they can do to help us get there. So if there's people that are obviously not helping anybody get anywhere, but have been there for a long time because of an owner who had a lot of affinity to them, we would let them go. When
He does not like that answer.
I know, I can tell, but
At all.
I'm telling you the
But how about
truth.
this, sir? Because I just read this. I forget what it was. Somebody sold their company and out of their proceeds gave a ton of money back to their employees.
That happens quite often, where,
He doesn't like that one either.
No, but you know what, it doesn't have to be a ton, so you sell your business for 10 million, you could set aside 100,000 and give it to the key employees who were the ones that really helped you get there. When we acquired GKIC, we didn't let anybody go. There were 20 people there, and there were changes that we made, and a couple left. They didn't like us, so, but we didn't let anybody go. Yes.
A lot of the training here at JKIC talks about building yourself as a celebrity brand, so to speak. Okay? But does creating yourself as a celebrity brand act as an impediment to selling businesses like that?
That's another good one.
So the question is, a lot of Dan's teaching is to build yourself up as the personality, and does that act as an impediment to selling the business later on?
I think it does. In Dan's case, it doesn't matter, because of who he is. But I think that if you're the name and you do go away, you get run over by a truck, and that's it, and you haven't really grown the company that much, whoever buys you will take the name off anyway.
If you remember, this question was asked at the women's event. This exact same question was
yeah.
asked at the women's event, and the answer was twofold. And the first part was, yeah, build it up using your name, and then slowly, when you're ready to begin to sell, remember, this is a 5-year plan, make the shifts away from it. But in order to build up the business quickly, follow Dan's principles, but then when you're ready to sell, start moving. That's kind of what so we got Dan, and as she just said, now we're doing the board of experts, and not that she's going to sell the company, that's not what she's talking about, but it's the same structure. Does that make sense? Okay.
Well, I've talked to Ryan Dice about this issue, and I've said, Ryan, you're the star. If you're not there when somebody wants to buy you, I mean, I know Ryan wants to do things with his kids and stuff like that, then you got to change. Can't you change your name?
And he is, isn't he?
He is. He's changing
Idea
his name.
Incubator.
Digital app,
But
yeah.
he built it
It's
to
very
this
smart.
point with his name. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, sir. Selling service businesses is the question.
Some of the businesses that we did acquire were partially services and partially product. So like coaching and product, where you intertwine the two. And your other part of it was where the value is.
Database, phone number, and website, who's buying that, things like asset purchase.
I've not done anything like that. Yeah.
So all the businesses that you bought have had product involved in it?
Product and some services. Like we did custom services where you developed some custom product. You had a generic product and then customized it for different industries. So we would do that. But we found that if we were doing everything custom, we didn't make any money. So you don't want to be in the custom business. That's hard because you're restarting from zero all the time. Low
Yes,
margins.
yes, we'll go over here and then to you.
You know what it's like if you have a house.
Let me just ask the question,
Oh,
because
sorry.
again, it's for the recording. In year 5, it says, never raise money when you need it. And he wants an explanation about that. This is really good.
Well, so it's like when the company I told you about that was going Chapter 11. So you go to a bank and you think they'll give us money. We really need money. And the same thing is if you're not going Chapter 11, if you're going around looking for money because you've only got 2 months left or 3 months left, you're not going to find any money. It's like finding money for your house. You don't want to, get a second mortgage when you can't even pay for anything. So what you need to do is start working with bankers and lawyers now. Start developing those relationships. Go to the bank when you have a lot of money in the bank and when your business is doing really well, and get some relationships so that when you need money, you can go back and say, listen, Dave, I'm going to be doing these things in the next year, and I'd like to get a $100,000 loan. And at that point, he's going to remember what you told him before about how well you were doing and all the things that you were doing. It's going to be a lot easier. So you're greasing the skids, kind of, rather than waiting until the end.
You have that in year 3. Is that when you're really starting that?
That's
Work
when- yep.
with banks and lawyer relationships.
Yes, because you could start in year 1 right away, but I figure in year 1 you're trying to do so many other things, so it might not be a top priority. But by the time you get to year 2, year 3, you're building your product, your revenues are going up, you can almost see profitability, or you see it, and I think that's the time when you start building all these relationships. Actually, depending on how well you're doing, you can start going to VCs or private equity guys, because that takes a lot of practice. Once you start going to them, you've got to develop your elevator pitch, you got to develop...
Just quickly tell the story about the first time you did this, you read the book and you went in and did...
Oh, yeah. The one about, he remembers my stories, but sometimes I don't know which ones he's talking about.
It's a great story about how you had no idea when you went in to do the first pitch.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like you read the book, you went in and did the...
Oh, yeah,
the-
yeah.
so tell
So they're asking all these questions, and 80% of them you thought you were ready and you thought you're really prepared, but you never are. So that's why it's good to practice. But during that meeting, I'm just taking notes. These are all the things I got to do. When I got out, I thought, I got cabbage patches growing on my shoulders. They probably think I'm a farmer somewhere since I can't answer all these questions. So the more of these guys that you can meet with, and you're practicing on them, you'll get the meetings. Have your business plan, have your 20 PowerPoints, talk about where you're going, what you're doing, when you're going to get there, how you're going to get there, and then you'll notice that they all ask the same questions. They all get the same 20 or 30. Yes?
Really, you need to be super loud. Okay, yeah. So the value of getting someone to put, a firm to put these presentations together for you.
I never did that. There's a lot of consultants out there who will do that for you, but if you don't do it, then you won't be able to answer these questions. You've got to go through the blood, sweat, and tears. I think it's not like putting together a marketing campaign or, working with Infusion where you can get other people to do it for you, the done-for-you stuff. In this case, you really got to go through this. The financials, I know most of you probably can't do, so you've got to get a financial person to work on that with you. But, these are tough questions, and when you're out there in front of them, they ask you everything about your financials. You got to know the answers to the questions, because if they are investing, they're investing in you. It's always you first, the company second. And, just like on Shark Tank. You all watch Shark Tank, right? And if they don't know the answers to the first few questions, you see those sharks sitting there going, yeah, I'm not doing this, because it is the person.
Yes, right here, he's been waiting forever. No. You'll be next. Yes.
Multiple hire when you're dealing with contracts and memberships, and when you're taking on debt, I'm assuming, I'm pretty sure, but you guys are never taking on person. You guys are never person assigned.
When you take on debt, are you taking it on personally?
No, never.
And multiples higher when it's a contract or?
Yes, absolutely. Multiples are always higher if you have contracts in place. So if you have if people are signing 1-year deals or 2-year deals or 3-year deals, then what happens is you take credit for the first year and the rest of it goes into deferred revenue. And you don't get as much credit for the deferred piece, but if it's guaranteed deferred, it's almost as good as the first year. And memberships are very good as well, as long as you can show that you don't have attrition of 85%. So if your membership is growing and a lot of other things are happening, that's really good.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you got it.
I'm curious, in your first story about Play, you talked about a company that was losing $10 million a year, and you sold it in an IPO for hundreds of millions of dollars. Did you turn that company around where it was a positive cash flow?
Yes. Yeah, so in 3 years, we went from losing 10 on 20 in revenue to making 3 on 10 in revenue. So that's a good story too. Revenues went down, because we got rid of some of the divisions that were totally, never going to make anything, and profit went up by a lot. So that's how we were able to do the IPO. Plus, it was the niche was a really good niche. It was the first company in K-12 online training. Really good niche. Everybody wanted to get in. And today it's a $400 million public company.
Yes, sir. Let me repeat the
Yeah,
question
that's a good
again. I guess a really good
question.
question.
Yeah.
So the first part of the question is how do these VC guys and private equity guys, have they ever run a business?
Most of them, absolutely not. I'd say 90% of them. So that gets frustrating because a lot of them want to tell you what to do when they've never done it themselves. They know the number part. They're wizards in numbers. So that part they're really good in. But some of them are really good, and some of them have run businesses. So some have gone through the cycle, made millions of dollars, either working for big companies or buying and selling their own, and they're great VCs or private equity guys. But I would say a lot of them are, they're just out of graduate school, and they're just earning their stripes. They got to be a CEO someday in order to really be good. And then the other.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Repeat it. You can repeat
The other
question.
part of your question was, if you have a lot of experience, will you be able to get a better deal, basically, is what you're saying, with the VCs, right? Yeah. The entrepreneur brings a lot to the table. So if you have the experience, most VCs and private equity guys are not going to buy companies where there isn't anybody to run them. So they're looking for people who have that experience, who can make this a big success. So they won't invest in a company that, they don't believe in the CEO. So if you come to them, like I did, I've seen a lot of experience, and I've worked with VCs and private equity guys, and you find a company and they want to place you in that company, you get a lot more equity in the company. You're just worth a lot more to them than anybody else who doesn't have the experience. Yeah.
Yes, Gene. So the question, if I've got it correct, is your business is very profitable, 25% net, your revenues are growing, you're self-funding. At some point, though, you're not going to be able to self-fund anymore. Are you talking about how to raise money?
Well, that's the question, really, raising it
Yeah, okay.
externally versus selling equity. Because
Raising it externally versus selling equity, yeah.
the owners or patios, and I've had a number of friends sell an equity position and they're gone. It's just the way it would be. So, do you get the gist?
Yeah, I think your question is, your company's doing really well, and do you really want to get VC money, or do you just keep on going and do really well? I think the answer to that is, do you have opportunities to really grow your company a lot faster? To buy competitors, or to put money into more product development, or to hire more salespeople, to grow it even quicker? So if you think you have that opportunity and you can't self-fund it, and you can get the right deal with a VC or a private equity guy, it might be a good thing to look into, because you can just grow that much faster. You could grow 50 or 100% a year if you had the money to do all those things. Otherwise, you're growing organically, right, for the next 7 or 10 or 15 years, whatever it is. So, you know, you got to watch out for VCs. They like to take control of the company. They usually want 51%. So they get control, they get a board seat, and you get to report to them. So you do have a boss. But the way I look at it always is, if you have 100% of a company that's doing 10 million, or, you know, 25% of a company that's doing 300 million, what's better? Yeah, and the other thing is you got to really make sure that you and the VC mesh. You know, do you get along? Are you going to be able to work with this guy or woman? Do a lot of research, do a lot of reference checking. Not only, you know, go to the companies they've invested in and talk to the CEOs and see how it is to work with them. So there's a lot of homework you should do as well as the homework they're going to do on you. So it's due diligence, two-way.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm assuming that you took an equity in GKIC. Do you also invest your personal money to get part of that equity? Or is your contribution your leadership and experience, or is it both? And the second question is there any type of formula for that?
So the question is, did Betty invest in GKIC, get an equity position because of her experience and her unbelievable track record, and is there a formula for that?
You know, most VCs and private equity guys want the CEO and the management team to invest. Because if you have skin in the game, you're going to work a lot harder than if you don't. It's just the way things are. So I absolutely do have equity. I put my own money into the company. And I do get additional equity for being CEO and for running the company and, you know, bringing it to new plateaus. And I've always done that, only because, well, they want you to do it anyway, but I like to do it more than what they want. But you can make a lot more money by investing your money than by not. Because let me tell you two other things. If you're dealing with a VC, VCs are going to invest in 1 out of 10 companies that come in front of them. VCs, they only need one company to, well, no, they probably invest in 1 out of 50, but they only need 1 out of 10 to succeed because they get a lot more money and it just works different. The private equity guys, they want 9 out of 10 to succeed. So private equity guys are going to really do a lot more diligence. They're a lot smarter. Their funds are a lot bigger. But they invest in bigger companies. Private equity guys won't invest in smaller companies.
Is Sean here? Sean Greeley still in the room?
Sean,
can you come up? Let's give Sean a round of applause.
Let me get that mic.
All right. Because Sean, you've been actually, come on up here. You can actually sit down. Oh, this is a good look. That's a beauty. Okay.
Shows
You can
off
sit
your
down.
new boots.
So Sean has actually been doing a little work with Betty, right? You do a little coaching?
Yes.
So can you just talk a little bit about that and how that's been going?
Yeah, I guess a little bit share about my own story as well as working with Betty. So those of you who've heard my story, I've been around the GKC world. I really sat in the Info Summit in 2006, had a business that was doing $60,000 worth of revenue that year, grew it up to just over $5 million this past year, and we've been some great accolades, Inc. 500 a couple times. We have an office in Australia, New Zealand. We are now just opening up a UK office. And the more I get down this path, and in the also using the strategies from Dan and GKC, it brings up a lot of questions about what is your exit strategy. I think a lot of the questions asking about how to get funding, well, is how do you want to get out of it at the end of the day, as part of that discussion as well. And so I think there's a lot of pieces to the entrepreneurial journey that we're talking about here with where do you want to end up at the end of the day, and what is enough, and balancing your life with your business goals and objectives and fun. And then during this process, as we're continuing to expand, there's been acquisition opportunities for me as well, other companies in my space that now we've I've been working through acquisition on, and you really can't find a lot of, well, it's interesting. Betty brings a lot to the table of having done a lot in the corporate space as well as knowing our industry and world, that you can have great discussion around all the pieces of how to structure deals, how to structure a sale, how to structure a purchase. Do you want to keep the team? Do you not want to keep the team? Do you want to do buyouts? What multiples do you want to have? Where do you see growth opportunities? And to have someone to bounce that off of and support you really through that process is just tremendous. And so really had a great time getting to know Betty over the past several months, working with her on some of those pieces, and certainly continuing that as we progress through the process. So yeah, it's been great. And I got to say, it's like every part of the entrepreneurial journey. It's scary when you do this stuff for the first time. And anybody who tells you different is lying. So, you can admit there's some fear to the pieces of it, and it challenges you at a different level. But when you surround yourself with great people who've been there, done that, and can support you through it, it makes it a whole lot more fun, reduces the pain, increases the profits tremendously, and really is another exciting step of the journey. So, absolutely encourage everybody to soon, I think it's going to be pretty hard to get to Betty. Right now, she's pretty accessible, and it's amazing. This is not the main session, but a lot of people are still trying to figure out just how to make money. Well, that's interesting to a point. At the end of the day, though, you got to figure out where do you want to go with it. And this is really, this is the cream of the crop when you get to this part of the journey.
And I think one of the things that's really important when you're acquiring companies, when you get to the point that Sean is at, is to structure deals that are really in your favor. So, because depending on how you structure that acquisition, you could make millions more or spend millions less on the acquisition of any company. So that's where I think experience really comes in, because there's all kinds of things you can do. You can do earn-outs, you can do, pay somebody a lot more for a company today and then claw it back if they don't make certain numbers. But really, that's such a big, important piece of it.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
We are literally almost out of time, but first, and we don't have this to sell you, so we want to gauge interest in this, because like Sean said, we know this is like a different level of person who would come into this room, quite frankly. If Betty did put together a program, it would be a small group coaching program, mega expensive. It would be an expensive program, but you would work one-on-one with her. How many people would be interested? And we don't have something to sell you. How many people would be seriously interested in that? Yeah, okay.
He's trying to make me do something so I don't boss him around.
Yeah, and my idea is it's an international program where there's no internet access or cell phone service, and we're just going to send her off. It's going to be great. No, seriously. So thank you for letting us know that, because she is seriously thinking about doing it, and if there was no